Under the ominous gaze of a full moon, a woman finds herself on the run, reflecting that in this life, she has only truly done two earth-shattering things: becoming a spy at a dangerous banquet and then being relentlessly hunted by mercenaries across the Forbidden Lands, ultimately crashing into an ancient castle. As she stumbles barefoot through the dark, her terror mounts when she discovers the opulent 18th century structure is not abandoned, but teeming with shadowy figures who reveal themselves as vampires, laughing menacingly as they declare it's been ages since they last saw a human. A piercing scream escapes her lips as she frantically tries to open a massive, ornate door, only to find it stubbornly locked, trapping her deeper within this terrifying nightmare. One vampire, with sharp fangs and bloodthirsty eyes, lunges at her, but she narrowly dodges the attack, her mind reeling in disbelief that vampires could possibly exist in the 21st century. Convinced she must be hallucinating from the decaying leaves and the sheer terror of the situation, she desperately searches for an exit, her eyes fixed on a second-story window, determining that escaping through it is her only chance for survival. Leaping from the window in a desperate bid for freedom, she plummets, as if her world is falling apart. Meanwhile, inside the lavish halls, a darkly charismatic man named Dewitt, lounging on a throne amidst his vampire companions, dismisses their complaints about discomfort, finding their current state annoying and the arrival of a human on his territory an unwelcome interruption to his games. As a female vampire seductively offers the human to him, Dewitt simply commands them to kill her. Surrounded by monstrous hands that grasp at her dress and face, she cries out for them to wait, pulling a pistol from her gown and leveling it directly at Dewitt, warning him to stay away. Dewitt, however, remains entirely unfazed, a smirk playing on his lips as he remarks on the pistol's advancement, then effortlessly catches the bullet he deflects with a wave of his hand, coolly informing her that she should have used silver bullets. With the gun now pointed at her own head, Dewitt offers a chilling ultimatum: become his plaything or be devoured completely. The woman's heart pounds. She refuses to die here, especially now that she recognizes Dewitt as the very monster who murdered her father 15 years ago, realizing her mother had been right all along about the true evil lurking within this castle. As Dewitt's gaze intensifies, his fanged smile a promise of torment, he forces her to choose between life and death, or he will decide her fate for her. With a sudden predatory kiss, Dewitt grabs and lifts her effortlessly while she struggles, her mind racing with terrified questions about what he intends to do. He licks her ear, tasting her blood, and taunts her, asking if she enjoys this game of desire. When another vampire suggests she be turned into their meal for refusing to play along, Dewitt, growing impatient with her hesitation, declares he will simply hand her over to his blood-sucking minions. But the woman's rage fuels her resolve. She cannot die now, not when vengeance for her father is within her grasp, vowing to kill Dewitt no matter the cost. Desperately, she cries out no, then quickly capitulates, agreeing to his game, insisting she is useful and can train his servants well, anything to survive. She pleads with him not to kill her, even calling him master, all while secretly vowing to kill him and all these monsters. Dewitt, finding her plea for survival rather amusing, considers her proposition, acknowledging he doesn't need a butler, but perhaps an interesting toy. He notes the rebellious glint in her eyes, finding disobedient toys far more entertaining, then commands her to kneel to prove her worth as his new plaything. When she hesitates, asking to be released first, Dewitt refuses, instead ordering his butler, Loris, to place stronger chains on her and take her away. As Loris, the elegant butler, gently but firmly guides her away, Dewitt observes her departure with a cold, appreciative smirk, finding her refusal to submit fascinating, especially her striking green eyes. Under the harsh glare of an operating light, a terrified woman lying vulnerable is assured by the handsome man before her that she won't feel any pain, as he was once a professional doctor. But his words do little to calm her shaking hands. As her blood is drawn, she questions if she's the only human left in this desolate castle, to which the man, Loris, calmly replies she has been for 20 long years, adding that someone else had arrived 2 decades prior but tragically died here. He mentions that man had rare blue eyes like hers, a detail she immediately corrects, her own green eyes flashing with a sudden, painful realization. It was her father he spoke of. Tears well up in her eyes, her mind reeling with the horrifying truth that Dewitt, the castle's master, was responsible for her father's death and all her endless misery. A burning rage ignites within her and she vows silently that she must, and she will, kill him. Meanwhile, Loris struggles, his eyes glowing blue, fangs subtly appearing as he fights the overwhelming temptation of her blood dripping from the syringe. The woman, still in a state of shock, barely manages to ask where her father died as Loris's control completely shatters, his hands clenching as he admits he can no longer resist the allure of her blood. Her eyes widen in horror, questioning what he means by losing control, as he declares his uncontrollable desire for her. She thinks desperately about vampires who abstain from blood, trying to appeal to his dormant humanity by arguing that drinking blood is a sin and kills people. Placing a comforting hand on his head, she muses that he seems like a vampire with some humanity left, and decides she might be able to win him over. Recalling the syringe still filled with her blood, initially for testing, she confronts Loris, stating his inability to resist it is already proof enough, and boldly declares her trust in him not to hurt her, despite his visible fangs. Loris, still visibly struggling with his primal urges, licks his fangs and gives a strained agreement, which the woman misinterprets as a sign of her success, smiling triumphantly. A maid then arrives, presenting a stunning black and red dress, claiming it was specially prepared by the master who would surely like it. As she tries on the dress, she proudly recalls how Loris, after drinking her blood, had knelt in repentance, and how she, Miss Lino, had casually comforted him by saying his transformation wasn't his fault. Loris, weeping, had expressed his gratitude, calling her the most beautiful woman he'd ever met. Just as Miss Lino savors her triumph, thinking herself a genius at taming men, the maid offers her stronger restraints from the master. A chilling realization dawning on Miss Lino that these are not underwear but perverted items from Do It. Enraged, she orders the maid out, contemplating the twisted nature of her captora. Unbeknownst to her, another female vampire, Murray, watches Loris from afar, observing his quickened heartbeat and accusing him of falling in love with the human. Loris vehemently denies it, warning Murray not to harm Miss Lino, but Murray dismisses his words as a headache, red eyes gleaming as she decides that Miss Lino must be destroyed. Later, Miss Lino stands before Do It, who is seated on his imposing throne, and he condescendingly asks why she isn't trying to become his plaything. She hesitantly mentions the restrictive corset she's wearing, trying to buy time, but Do It scoffs, questioning if such a short dress already restricts her, making him doubt if keeping her alive is even worth it. He leans in close, calling her his little toy and demanding she prove her worth. With a facade of submission, her eyes burning with suppressed fury, she agrees, determined to endure for a greater purpose. Meanwhile, outside, several seductive vampire women clamor at Loris, begging him to let them in to play with the new human girl. Despite Loris's resistance, they push past him, triggering a primal shift as blood drips from his mouth and his eyes change color, struggling violently with his burgeoning bloodlust. Loris manages to push them back, insisting no one enters without the master's orders, inwardly raging that they are ruining his plan to hunt snow wolves. But before he can fully regain control, Murray, smirking from the shadows, notes that the human girl deliberately provoked Loris and wonders chillingly if she'll be mauled by a snow wolf right in front of Do It. Suddenly, a monstrous snow wolf lunges, its jaws snapping at Miss Lino, who screams as she is thrown to the ground. The wolf bites into her arm and she feels an unnatural pull, realizing something on her body is attracting the beast, making escape impossible. The other vampire women watch, their eyes glowing red, some transforming as Loris collapses, realizing his body has no resistance to her blood. His face contorts in pain and desire, his eyes now a terrifying mix of red and blue, as the other vampires, drawn by the scent, begin to transform and growl, closing in on Miss Lino. Just as she screams for help, fearing she's about to be torn apart, she is suddenly slashed through the air and teleports to another room. There, Do It stands, grabbing her chin and angrily accusing her of intentionally getting injured and bleeding to provoke him, declaring his distaste for disobedient women. Choking, Miss Lino struggles to speak, her tear-filled eyes desperately searching for a way out, thinking that her blood might be the only thing that could spare her life. Do It then bites deeply into her neck, drinking her blood. After a moment, he pulls back, wiping blood from his mouth, as Miss Lino wonders if her blood had worked. Do It looks at her with an intense gaze, revealing there is now a contract mark inside her body. Her eyes widen in stunned confusion as he leans in, sealing her fate with a chilling declaration. "You're my fiancé." The world of nobles is a secret game, a cruel stage where the master with cold, fiery eyes declares Miss Lind a cunning woman, unable to believe she is his fiancée. He rages that a woman with human blood does not deserve such a title, ordering his subordinate Loris to bring forth the torture device with a chilling command that she be tied to the Catherine wheel. Loris, with unsettling politeness, invites Miss Lind onto the menacing spokes, and she steps onto it, her heart pounding with a growing terror as she looks at the brutal wheel, a scream catching in her throat. The master warns her directly that if she dares to make a sound, she will become the snow wolf's next meal, a horrifying fate that makes her gasp, desperately trying to understand her situation. Strapped to the infamous Catherine wheel, a device known for twisting and cutting victims, Miss Lind realizes she's caught in a trap where even a whimper means death, essentially a drawn-out execution. The master then mocks her, questioning her intelligence for locating his cursed jungle castle and exposing her identity through a staged injury, especially when the person who tricked her omitted one crucial detail. his profound hatred for human blood. As he presses a sharp blade to her neck, drawing a single bead of blood, Miss Lind attempts to deny being tricked, claiming it was an accident, but he coldly dismisses her explanation as the wrong answer. With a swift, brutal motion, the blade cuts into her skin, causing her to gasp in pain and a trickle of blood to fall, her eyes widening in pure terror. He stands over her, his expression unyielding as more rapid cuts slice through her flesh, a horrifying display of violence, her blood splattering on the dark floor. As her body endures the agonizing torment, Miss Lind struggles to understand how to answer him when he clearly despises the truth, noting his dark eyes fixed on her silence. Still receiving no satisfactory response, the master orders Loris to bring that thing out, a glint of disturbing anticipation in his eyes. Loris, with fangs hinting at his true nature beneath his mask, expresses his own dark excitement, musing that the impending torment will affect both Miss Lind and the master, eager to see his lord's composure shatter. Miss Lind, already feeling her body grow uncontrollably hot, realizes that thing is a crimson feather, and Loris reveals it to be the legendary sacred object of the demon Asmodeus, capable of awakening the deepest human desires and laced with a potent love potion. The feather's touch sends shivers through her as Loris explains that once the heat takes over, the drug scent will spread, infecting anyone nearby. Those who fail to find satisfaction will descend into madness, transforming into creatures driven solely by pleasure, eventually succumbing to death. With her body burning, Miss Lind desperately vows to remain silent, refusing to give him the satisfaction of her screams, even as the master goads her, suggesting she cry out if her disgusting blood cannot bear the pressure. She seethes with rage, wondering if he even views her as human, recognizing his cruel game is designed to strip her of all worth. But she resolves that despite her desire to live, she will not endure this humiliation silently. Gathering every ounce of defiance, Miss Lind challenges her tormentor, asking why he always chooses to watch others suffer rather than participating himself. The master reacts with a stunned what, his cool facade cracking under her unexpected audacity. With a defiant smile, Miss Lind presses on, boldly asking if he refrains from participating because he's incapable, her mind flashing back to her training. She recalls her trainer's lessons on manipulating men, who, despite their power, are slaves to primal desires, emphasizing that a man who truly isn't interested would simply kill rather than waste words. Her trainer had specifically told her that if a man claimed disinterest in her divine beauty, it was a blatant lie, and that feeble provocations reveal insincerity rather than genuine indifference. Back in the present, Miss Lind reiterates her bold accusation, asking if he derives pleasure only from observing others succumb to lust. The master's eyes flash with fury as he demands to know what she just said, his previous composure completely shattered by her biting words. As his rage boils over, Miss Lind meets his gaze with a dangerous, alluring smile and provocatively challenges him, asking if he dares to kiss her. Lady Lind, eyes gleaming with a daring challenge, boldly asked her master if he had the courage to kiss her. To which the dark-haired vampire master chillingly retorted if she truly desired to be drained of all her blood, labeling her a foolish human. Undeterred, Lind pressed him, her expression a mix of allure and defiance, demanding to know if he dared or not. The master hesitated, a palpable tension filling the space between them, as a single drop of blood glistened on Lind's lip, making him internally question the inexplicably sweet scent of her blood. His golden eyes began to glow with a potent, hungry crimson, and he reached out, surprised to find Lind visibly aroused, a searing red aura emanating from her as he touched her. Lind's face flushed intensely, her body betraying her as the master noted the intoxicating, intense scent that overwhelmed him. From a distance, another long-haired vampire observed, a sly smirk playing on his lips as he mused about the strong effect of the love potion spilled on the feathers, then taunted Lind to admit her desire for pleasure since she was doomed to die anyway. Lind, struggling against the master's proximity, inwardly vowed not to let him take control, sensing that even he was reaching his limit, and she had to make him surrender just as the third dose of the potent potion was administered, making her flush even more deeply. But then an abrupt stop echoed, and Lind succumbed to the overwhelming sensations, fainting into unconsciousness, leaving the long-haired vampire to wonder if she had truly fainted. The master, now distanced from her, simply remarked, "How boring," his expression one of detached disappointment. Lind was next seen bound to a large, medieval-looking wheel, still unconscious, as the long-haired vampire mused aloud about her peculiarity, noting it was his first time witnessing a human withstand a vampire's love potion. The master's eyes glowed with an almost primal red as he listened, the other vampire continuing to express astonishment that even the mighty Blood Clan couldn't resist such a potent force. Yet this fragile human had managed to endure it. He then asked the master how they should proceed with Lind, suggesting the cruel fate of tossing her to the lower-ranking vampires. But the master, turning away, gave an unexpected command. Take Lynn to a room on the third floor and give her the antidote. The long-haired vampire looked taken aback by this unforeseen leniency, surprised she was being given a room all to herself. Lynn soon awoke in a luxurious, sunlit room, while the master watched her from the shadows, contemplating her sleeping form. Later, as Lind rested, the long-haired vampire dared to ask his master if he was perhaps craving Lady Lind. The master, turning sharply, angrily declared that he would not pry into his affairs, stating firmly that she was far from worthy of becoming his food. Yet the long-haired vampire, a knowing smirk on his face, questioned if that was truly the case, subtly pointing out that the master had shifted from referring to her as this human to simply her, implying a growing, unspoken attachment. As Lind continued to rest peacefully, Lind finally awoke, blinking in confusion, surprised to find herself alive and even granted the privilege of a private room, seemingly without surveillance. A flicker of hope ignited within her as she wondered if she could possibly leave this ancient castle now. She gazed out the window, observing the free birds, and decided this was a good opportunity to test her chances. Reaching out to the window, her hand met an invisible barrier with a sharp thud, sending a jolt of pain through her and making her cry out in shock. She recoiled, collapsing backward in pain and frustration. A red-eyed maid suddenly appeared, inquiring politely if Lady Lind needed any help, feigning concern. Lind, realizing she had been caught attempting to escape, politely declined, as the maid explained it was her first time caring for a human and offered to introduce her to the kitchen and various parts of the castle. Lind immediately understood she was still under surveillance, chastising herself for getting excited too soon. As they walked, the maid warned her that the entire second floor was the king's forbidden area, forbidding entry without orders. Lind's curiosity piqued, she wondered what was hidden inside, and the maid revealed it was a storage room, explaining it contained weapons collected by the king during battles with vampire hunters, showing glimpses of formidable armaments. Lind expressed a keen interest in seeing them. The maid, her eyes hardening, immediately reiterated her stern warning that servants had no right to enter the forbidden second floor without the king's permission. Lind, realizing the maid's unyielding resolve, reluctantly agreed. Internally, the maid seethed, silently condemning Lind as an insolent, lowly human. The maid then led Lind through a grand, desolate hall, explaining that vampires held feasts there every evening and daytime was their resting period. Lind observed how empty and stark the hall appeared compared to its likely brilliant night scene. The maid continued to guide her, pointing out rooms that each housed about 100 lower-ranking vampires, warning Lind not to casually wander there without protection. Lind inwardly calculated that if there were more than 3 such rooms, the vampire population was indeed vast and dangerous. With a slight predatory smile, the maid announced they had reached the kitchen and invited Lind inside. But Lind recoiled, a look of strong apprehension on her face. Quickly, Lind declined, stating she wasn't interested in the kitchen and would return on her own. As she turned to leave, a flash of red caught her eye in a reflection, confirming her unsettling feeling that she was being watched. Suddenly, the maid called out, startling Lind, and insisted that since Lady Lind had already come this far, she should take a look inside the kitchen before leaving. Lind turned, her face a mask of distress, as the maid's red eyes gleamed with undeniable menace, revealing her true, sinister intentions. The opulent, yet sinister halls of the mansion echo with hushed whispers as Lady Lind is escorted, her heart aflutter with a strange mix of apprehension and hope, unknowingly walking into a trap. Behind her back, the maids, like venomous serpents, mock her timid demeanor and average looks, questioning what the king sees in her and suggesting she belongs with the mad vampires, a courtesan in the lowest quality room. Lady Lind hears every cruel word, her resolve hardening as Emma, the lead maid with eyes like burning coals, clarifies that while they won't eat her like a lowly creature, they are high-level vampires who intend to thoroughly humiliate her. But Lady Lind, eyes suddenly flashing with cunning, reminds Emma of the king's direct orders not to harm her, subtly implying that any ill treatment would be a direct defiance of King Duet's directive. Undeterred, the maids are urged to action, Emma sneering that even if harm is forbidden, making her uncomfortable is not, and orders her sisters to hold the struggling Lady Lind. Emma then presents a bucket of year-old, larva-infested chicken blood, promising Lady Lind a gruesome initiation into her new reality. Lady Lind challenges her, asking if Emma isn't afraid of Duet discovering her lies, to which Emma, with a chilling smile, dismisses it, claiming she'll simply say she carelessly fed her the wrong thing, then bares her fangs, demanding Lady Lind kneel and offer her very essence, organs, brain, and skin, declaring that only she is worthy of the king's attention, not any human. With a fierce glint in her eyes, Lady Lind defiantly asks what happens if she refuses. Suddenly, a maid screams that Lady Lind has seized a knife from the kitchen, Emma, intrigued by her audacity, orders them to hold her down and cut off her hands. But Lady Lind, eyes blazing with a newfound fury and a metaphorical blindfold torn away, declares she is no doll to be bullied. In a swift, blood-curdling moment, a swish is heard and Emma shrieks, clutching her now bleeding hand, a tendon severed. The other maid, stunned, mocks her pain, saying it's just a cut, but Lady Lind stands over Emma, her green eyes piercing, and commands the bleeding maid to apologize for her irritating attitude and return her to her room. Emma, caked in blood, screams back that it will happen only in Lady Lind's dreams. With a brutal shove, Lady Lind pushes Emma's head into the bucket of foul blood, telling her she can't hear her over the gurgling and demanding she wash her face before they speak again. The other maids watch in terror, wondering if Emma is still alive, as the now submerged Emma desperately gurgles that Butler Loris was the one who gave the orders. Lady Lind pulls Emma's head from the bucket, a new curiosity in her eyes, as Emma, begging for mercy, swears that Lord Loris gave the command, invoking a curse upon herself if she lies. Lady Lind then turns to the remaining terrified maids, demanding to know if this is true, and they, too, confirm Loris's involvement, fearing the same curse if they lie. Stunned, Lady Lind ponders how Loris, a trusted figure, could be behind such treachery. Emma, seizing the moment, desperately offers to lead her to Loris on the 3rd floor, begging for her life, as Lady Lind's expression hardens with a burgeoning plan. Now the 3 maids dangle upside down, tied by their feet over a vat of water, Lady Lind declaring this their punishment. They live if they can untie themselves before suffocating, a chilling display of her mercy. The scene shifts to the elegant dining hall where Butler Loris sits enjoying sweets, a picture of calm. Lady Lind confronts him, observing that he no longer rejects blood, implying a shift in his vampiric preferences, as she pours him a floral tea, noting it's for his highness and he loves such beverages. She then directly asks if he ordered maid Emma, catching him off guard. When he asks if they told her everything, Lady Lind confirms it, her voice filled with betrayal as she asks why he made them do it, wondering if he hated her or if she had somehow crossed a line. Loris, his thoughts a dark cloud, mutters about how troublesome humans are. He denies hating Lady Lind, claiming he has never felt that way, but Lady Lind, gripping his hand with an unwavering gaze, demands to know his true reason. Why? Loris found himself utterly exposed as Lady Lind, with a furious shove, knocked him to the ground, her accusations flying like daggers that he had used servants to bully her, her foot hovering menacingly close as she demanded to know why he, Loris, would betray their friendship. Pleading for a chance to explain, Loris, red-faced and visibly distressed, struggled to articulate his thoughts as Lind pressed him further, her face inches from his, insisting he rise, yet refusing to move herself, claiming betrayal from a friend. The intensity of her wrath and her desperate challenge for him to simply kill her openly rather than deceive her left Loris reeling, a sudden nosebleed staining his face as his mind reeled, unable to think straight under her piercing gaze. He managed to stammer that he wasn't lying and never intended to hurt her, but Lind, ever the astute one, retorted that she knew he was a vampire who detested blood, then made a shocking demand. The truth about do it, or he could bite her right there and then. Loris's hands trembled, refusing such a barbaric act, and with a desperate surge, he pushed away, declaring he would tell her everything. He confessed, a lie he internally begged God to forgive, that he had orchestrated the bullying to reveal the greatest secret of their kind. Vampires, like him, were susceptible to water, which eroded their very being. Lind's eyes widened, a dawning comprehension sweeping over her as she realized his earlier actions were a desperate attempt to show her this truth, and filled with a misguided apology, she again offered her neck, pleading for him to bite her. But Loris, consumed by an internal battle, refused to drink human blood, reassuring her he could control himself, even as Lind, with a chillingly sweet smile, insisted he relax, trusting in their supposed friendship, a trust Loris knew was built on his own escalating deception. As Lind finally departed, leaving behind a solemn vow, Loris was left gasping for breath, battling the primal hunger stirring within him, lamenting his forbidden desires for his friend. A sinister, shadowy voice, the dark echo of his vampiric nature, mocked him, labeling Lind a manipulative fool who deliberately provoked his hunger to use him, then produced a bag of blood, dropping it with a wet thud, offering a lesser but immediate gratification. The demonic entity, now fully manifesting with a cruel, fanged smirk, urged him to drink, but Loris, still clinging to a shred of his former self, kicked the blood away, declaring he didn't care about being used by others, but at least he didn't hate her. A fleeting image of a smiling Lind flickering in his mind. The dark voice roared in pure, unadulterated fury, its red eyes blazing as it physically choked Loris, demanding to know the point of a life lived in self-torture. Unwilling to savor the delicious food before him, suggesting he might as well die. Kneeling in utter despair, Loris agreed, begging the entity to end him, to grant them both eternal sleep and release from this disgusting, endless existence. The dark entity recoiled slightly at Loris's profound resignation, but quickly regained its composure, vowing to eliminate Lind, whom it deemed a disaster, and restore Loris to his former obedient self. Loris, in a desperate surge of defiance, screamed that he would not allow harm to come to anyone and demanded his body back. But the sinister voice, now fully in control, effortlessly rose to its feet, dismissing Loris's feeble struggles, and with a contemptuous sneer opened a hidden compartment, preparing a torment for Loris, to witness Lind being toyed with by Duet, sinking into depravity. Loris's face, now an unsettling mask of cruel delight, one eye glowing blue and the other red, an evil-fanged smirk replacing his usual gentle expression, declared his former self pathetic. Meanwhile, a servant with a scarred face ushered Lind forward, reminding her that obedience was paramount when serving the master, whispering cuttingly that her ruined beauty was the only reason she had this chance. Lind, in her elegant dress, entered the opulent room, a tea set in hand, announcing her presence to serve her master. The master, the newly transformed Loris, was reclined, his expression unreadable as Lind began to massage his shoulders. When she asked about the pressure and offered to massage his face next, the master, with a glint in his eye, suddenly reached for a water bottle. Lind, her eyes wide with horror, screamed at him to disappear forever as he, the possessed Loris, poured the water over his own head, writhing in silent agony as the vampiric essence within him was assaulted, yet he endured it, a chilling testament to the dark power that now controlled him. Lind's emerald eyes flash with fear as she grapples with the terrifying thought that the king might actually die. A man dragging her roughly as she wonders if such a powerful being could truly perish. Suddenly a harsh hand seizes her, twisting her arm, and a pained cry escapes her lips. The formidable male vampire, his face contorted in a snarl, roars at her for her foolishness, demanding to know whose magic she thinks sustains this abandoned castle. He coldly declares that if the master dies, she too will perish, then orders Emma to lock her away, stating she has no right to live if the master is gone. As Emma dutifully confirms with a sharp yes, Lind's inner resolve hardens. If Duet dies, she vows she will only live more fully. Meanwhile, in a grand hall, King Duet lies amidst a bed of crimson roses within an open coffin, as his loyal blood clan members perform a desperate resurrection ritual, imploring him to endure the agonizing pain, for all their hopes rest on his return. Back in her dire situation, Lind, desperate, urges her captors to hurry, only to see Emma, now clutching Lind's own stolen gun, glaring with cruel intent. Emma and another vampire sneer, claiming Lind deserves every torture, promising to make her life a living hell as they forcefully shove her into a dark cell. Emma warning them not to let her die too quickly, leaving Lind trapped and despairing behind the cold bars. Emma then orders a monstrous, leering vampire, whose red eyes glow with hunger, to torture Lind severely, wanting her to regret ever being born. The grotesque vampire cackles, his fangs dripping saliva, confessing his craving for blood. Terrified yet defiant, Lind pleads for her life, offering to be a daily blood source, trying to reason with him about the difference between a full meal and constant sustenance. But as he lunges, she desperately shouts if he's even listening. The creature roars, sinking his fangs into her, and Lind's eyes widen in excruciating pain as she collapses. Just as despair threatens to consume her, another vampire, revealing a startlingly human facade beneath a mask, attacks her tormentor from behind, urging Lind to keep screaming to divert the guard's attention. He removes his grotesque mask, revealing Noel, a handsome, white-haired man who introduces himself as a werewolf in hiding, proposing an alliance with Lind, whom he presumes to be human. Lind, stunned, repeats the word werewolf. Noel explains that werewolves and vampires have been ancient natural enemies, though both originated from the same curse, with each race possessing the power to restrain the other. The angry vampire commander shouts at his scurrying guards, demanding to know what they are doing. As Lind, bleeding and battered, whispers a plea for help. As Noel helps her, Lind asks if he can truly restrain vampires. He modestly admits his limited power as a newly matured werewolf, only able to briefly subdue the low-rank blood clan members who have lost their minds, before asking if she truly assassinated King Duet. Lind stares and Noel confirms he did, recounting the chilling sensation of a bullet piercing Duet's skull at close range. Realizing Duet is truly dead, Lind is overcome with emotion, wondering if she has finally avenged her father. In a poignant vision, her father appears, embracing her and thanking her for avenging him, assuring her he's watched her from heaven, leaving Lind weeping with profound sorrow. Observing her tears, Noel, blushing bashfully, reminds her that they still have an unresolved issue, gesturing subtly toward her disheveled and blood-stained dress. Lind, mortified, shouts in embarrassment, but Noel, beaming with admiration, praises her as a legend for single-handedly slaying Duet, the most formidable Blood King, calling it the greatest dream of his life. utterly captivated by her amazing feats. As Lind gathers her composure to share vital information, she urges Noel to pay close attention. The vampire commander, frantic with urgency, realizes that Dewitt's demise means the entire abandoned castle will collapse, necessitating an immediate escape. Noel, confused, questions how the castle could be abandoned if Lind claims it was recently built. Lind then reveals the shocking truth. The seemingly new castle is, in fact, centuries old, built in the 18th century, only appearing abandoned to outsiders for many years. Noel, stunned, asks what year she arrived, and Lind clearly states it was 1833 when werewolves were first allowed into the city. Noel, delighted, recounts celebrating his adulthood in the city that year, proudly displaying his wolf tail, a detail that sends shivers down Lind's spine as she realizes the current year is 2023. A wave of existential dread washes over her as she grapples with the possibility of time travel, a parallel dimension, or an ancient monster's presence. Aware of the castle's imminent collapse, Lind insists they must escape immediately. Noel, demonstrating his infinite strength werewolf skill, effortlessly bends the prison bars and emerges from an underground tunnel looking up at her. Praising her strength in killing Dewitt, he then shyly asks if he can call her something other than MS. Lind, suggesting with a blush, "Be big sis." Lind's face flushes with alarm, internally noting that it doesn't sound right and pondering if his true age would make him older than her great-grandfather if he lived until modern times. Seeing her reaction, Noel quickly apologizes for his abruptness. But Lind, still blushing, waves it off, asserting that regardless of their bizarre circumstances, he's just a newly matured werewolf. She playfully pats his head, giving him permission to call her Big Sis. The gentle gesture overwhelms Noel, his eyes swirling as a powerful blush engulfs his face, thinking he can't hide it anymore as his werewolf ears visibly emerge. Noel, a young werewolf, calls out to his Big Sis Lind, a blonde woman in a flowing dress, as he stands by her side, thinking he's about to lose control and change into his true form. He eagerly reveals a small door leading to a doggy hole in the garden, explaining it's how he snuck in and promising to take her out now. Lind recoils in disbelief at the mention of a doggy hole. But before they can escape, a searing purple buzz erupts, striking Noel with immense force and sending him crashing to the ground, his body lifeless. Suddenly, a figure emerges, his voice dripping with condescension, questioning if Lind planned to elope with an underage werewolf. This imposing man Dewitt sneers, asking if Noel's puny physique could possibly satisfy her, before possessively declaring her my fiancé. Lind stares in horrified recognition, realizing Dewitt, the Vampire King, is alive. With a chilling command, Dewitt points a finger, ordering the werewolf to be killed. One of his guards lunges forward with a swift swoosh, prompting Lind to scream for them to wait, desperately pleading for Noel's life. She tries to intervene, but the guard blocks her, leaving her to clench her hand in impotent despair. Dewitt closes in, his eyes cold, demanding what right she has to make such demands. Then roughly grabs her face, reminding her she's lucky to not die alongside the werewolf. Trapped and terrified, Lind, fighting back tears, humiliatingly agrees that her sins are unforgivable and praises his resurrection as gospel, trying desperately to appeal to his vanity. She clasps his arm, tearfully begging him to spare Noel, insisting the boy is too weak to harm him and will pray for his well-being. Noel lies unconscious, a testament to Dewitt's power. Dewitt merely contemplates her words, repeating gospel with a hint of disdain. Inside his mind, a chorus of red, shadowy eyes and voices accuse him, condemning his existence as an original sin and demanding his death. Yet Dewitt remains outwardly composed. As Lind, her spirit broken, drops to her knees, offering her very body to King Dewitt as his most loyal believer. He scoffs at her sudden loyalty, reminding her she literally shot him in the head mere hours ago. Yet Lind persists in her desperate plea, thinking that Noel is her only defense against the vampires, and she absolutely cannot let him die, dismissing faith as a mere lie. Dewitt, seeing her resolve, agrees to spare Noel, but demands not just her body, but her soul. His eyes gleam with a predatory glint as he asks if she can give it to him. Dewitt smiles, a cruel, satisfied curve of his lips. Lind, bewildered, asks how she is supposed to give him her soul. From his prone position, Noel cries out, begging MS. Lind not to sacrifice her soul for that devil. But a guard swiftly covers his mouth, silencing his protests. The guard, fangs glinting, reprimands Noel for interrupting, remarking it's not the behavior of a gentleman werewolf. Lind, her gaze distant, wonders what she should do. Dewitt, his smile now unnervingly gentle, explains it's simple. She merely needs to repeat a line after him, a vow to follow him unto death. Lind, draped in an exquisite gown, bows her head, her fate sealed. She notes his good mood, a cruel twist to her despair. Internally, she questions whether she's truly given him her soul, or if her atheism prevents oaths from binding her. Dewitt then instructs Lind to raise her head and kiss him, right in front of the werewolf. Lind, shocked and hurt, questions if he's going back on his word, but Dewitt asserts he dislikes others coveting what is his and will spare Noel's life and release him if she complies. Noel, distraught, fears Lind will sacrifice herself and defiantly rejects the deal. Dewitt looks at Lind, his unspoken why hanging in the. Lind explains that being spared is enough, and a pure first kiss should be reserved for the one she truly loves, not casually traded. Yet with a silent sigh, she kisses him and he deems it perfect. Lind continues to kiss him, Dewitt proclaiming himself the person she'll spend her life with. The kiss deepens, Dewitt's fangs subtly grazing her lip, drawing a single drop of blood. Lind's heart pounds, her body burns, as if something within her has been irrevocably activated. Dewitt triumphantly declares their contract officially in effect, gazing at his new fiancée, and states that if nothing unexpected happens, he will ensure those who betray him die, but she is an exception. Now adorned in a stunning blue dress, Lind finds herself kneeling before Dewitt, who welcomes her back to life. Seated on a grand throne, Dewitt coldly informs her that she is the sole person alive among the damned corpses. Lind stands pondering how to respond when Noel, still imprisoned, shouts for her to get back inside. The guard sternly reminds Noel that only Dewitt's orders saved him tonight, and he should reflect on his actions. Noel, beaten and locked away, kneels in his cell, reflecting on his despair. He recalls Lynn's desperate plea to spare his life, recognizing the depth of her sacrifice. Overwhelmed with powerlessness and self-blame, Noel laments watching Dewitt take Lynn away, wishing he had been brave enough to sacrifice his own life for her. With a fierce glint in his eyes, Noel vows to rescue Lynn, to restore her freedom, and to become her most loyal knight, even if it costs him everything. Clutching her chest in silent anguish, the blonde protagonist stands in a regal hall, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, consumed by Dewitt's distant declaration of my fiancé, and the crushing fear that he still harbors unforgiveness. Her mind races, convinced his previous words were nothing but lies, wondering how he could so swiftly abandon the threat of shooting her. A memory that makes her cling desperately to her will to live, despite the profound humiliation. As a maid offers to attend to her, the protagonist collapses to her knees, determined to endure this ordeal, her face set in a mask of feigned submission, pushing back the tears that threaten to fall. Dewitt, observing her terrified obedience, taunts her for finally grasping the concept of fear. Then, with an almost playful shift, tells her to sit down, that there's no need for her to wait on him. Confused, she wonders if he's being fickle or if he's truly so easily manipulated. Her face a picture of cautious bewilderment. He gestures, a shimmering path of magic forming before him, declaring that from this day forward, she no longer needs to be like the others. She can begin to enjoy being served. Bewildered, she asks him why, which plunges them into a stark, crimson-hued flashback, showing shadowy figures engaged in a deadly struggle, a spear piercing one man. A furious voice screams at Dewitt to die. As he is struck, blood blossoming on his chest, then another voice accuses him of being a waste, as he slumps wounded. The chilling reality of blood clan enmity echoes, a voice revealing they've been enemies from the very beginning. A younger Dewitt cries out, "Little brother," just as a small, enraged girl, the protagonist, charges forward, vowing to kill him to avenge her father. The scene distorts, an adult Dewitt stands over a fallen man, and the young girl is thrown back by an unseen force, her dress changing to blue as she hits the ground. Distraught and crying, her childlike mind can only think of green and more food. As she is dragged away, Dewitt, mouth bloody, stares with a tormented expression, the horrifying realization of his actions dawning on him. The narration reveals that to seal a powerful entity, Dewitt used the very power of all the blood in his body. Cursing himself, since that day his blood has been rancid, his body a living corpse. A revelation that causes the adult protagonist's eyes to widen in shock and fear. Dewitt reveals that the antidote to his torment is right in front of him, clutching his chest in pain, blood once more staining his lips. The protagonist, still crying, is asked to back away, slowly stepping away, her heart heavy with indecision. As she watches Dewitt calmly walk through a doorway and leave her behind, the flashback replays her childhood vow to kill him and avenge her father. And the narration confirms he let her go, leaving her curled and desolate on the floor. The adult protagonist reflects on his past question of why, understanding that despite everything, she still returned to his side. The girl from back then has grown up, and now he holds her close. In the present, Dewitt sternly tells her that a truly good girl simply obeys her master's orders, suggesting she's being naughty and asks how she should be punished. Internally, she fumes at his teasing, vowing to find a way to escape these tiresome master and servant games. Yet Dewitt misinterprets her inner turmoil, a thought bubble indicating he believes she actually enjoys obeying him. He then declares that since she has admitted her mistake, his punishment will be to forbid her from ever betraying him. And if she remains loyal, he might even grant her the position of second in command. The protagonist is utterly bewildered by his sudden shift to happiness, finding this devil completely unpredictable. Duet, looking pleased, urges her to agree, and she quickly complies. He then presents her with a stunning ruby ring, explaining it represents his loyalty, his magic power, and his very being. She marvels that it contains his magic, declaring it great. Then, with a sly smile, Duet announces a new term for her rewards and punishments. She must take the initiative to kiss him once a day. Her eyes widen in surprise, but she leans in and kisses him. She mentally decides that she can forget the kissing requirement if it means more magic power, as Duet pronounces her a good girl and deepens their kiss. But then he casually changes his mind, declaring they'll make it 3 kisses a day, leaving the protagonist utterly speechless. Later in his chambers, Duet lies in bed as his loyal subordinate Loris questions his decision to fall for a human. Duet, with a sharp glance, warns Loris he has crossed a line. Loris apologizes, explaining his concern that Duet might be deceived. Duet reminds Loris of his 5 centuries of service and how he deals with his enemies: dismemberment, public humiliation, and forced witnessing of loved ones' deaths. He explains he's showing the protagonist special mercy because her blood can lift his curse. Her faith can make him stronger, making her more valuable alive than dead. He finishes with a cold, absolute statement: emotions are utterly useless to him. In the opulent bathing chamber, Duet cradles Lind, a single drop of water or perhaps a tear, clinging to her cheek as he notes her uncharacteristic proactive nature today, their shared intimacy deepening the moment. Surrounded by the serene water, Duet's brow arches in suspicion, asking if she has secretly betrayed him again, his fingers delicately caressing her flushed face as she quickly denies it, feigning a desire for closeness. Internally, Lind fumes, believing his earlier tumble was a calculated move to twist the narrative, yet she maintains a wide-eyed blush, while Duet, ever observant, subtly smirks, having correctly surmised her intentions to draw nearer. He calls her an honest, good girl, promising a reward, making her inwardly wonder if it's merely another ring as he pulls her into a searing kiss. Their lips meet, a sudden, passionate urgency consuming the moment, as Duet holds her tightly in the bath's embrace. He murmurs for her to take the initiative next time, to not always wait for him to guide her, while Lind is overwhelmed, her senses alight from his caresses. He asks, his voice low, if the sensation is pleasurable, pushing her further into a breathless, crimson-faced stupor. Completely flustered and embarrassed by his intense gaze, she wonders silently if he never feels embarrassment, to which Duet confidently retorts that it takes far more to fluster him. Lind, recovering her composure, splashes playfully, deciding she might as well entertain him, her gaze defiant as she thinks it's his choice to look or not. Duet, however, is lost in thought, a rare smile gracing his lips as he reflects on a happiness he hasn't felt in 100 years, realizing that the ability to perceive his heartbeat, his changing moods, all his emotions, is solely because of her. His golden eyes and subtle fangs hint at his ancient nature as Lind, her head tilted, processes his 100 years comment with mild surprise. Meanwhile, outside the private chamber, Emma the maid stands rigid, clutching a bundle of clothes and food. As she hears the suggestive sounds and the master's playful words towards Lind, her face contorts in grotesque fury, her vampire fangs emerging as she internally rages, screaming that her high and mighty master is being defiled by a mere human. The scene flashes back to the passionate pair, Lind clinging to Duet in the bath, his words of happiness echoing. Emma, shrouded in steam and obscured from view, hears Duet teasing Lind about talking back earlier, confirming her darkest fears as she sees their intimate embrace. Her internal monologue boils with indignation, questioning how her master could allow such degradation, her eyes burning with terrifying red intent. Lind, still entangled with Duet, whispers his name, her inner thoughts betraying her current predicament. She had planned to leave, but somehow things escalated beyond her control. Flashbacks reinforce Duet's rare joy, the softness in his eyes a stark contrast to the darkness Emma feels. Emma announces the delivery of requested items, her voice cold and strained, and Duet casually bids her enter. Lind, observing his rare, relaxed smile, internally dismisses his emotions, reaffirming her own agenda to use him, save the werewolf, and then eliminate him. When Duet asks if she knows how to use the ring, Lind, ever the opportunist, feigns eagerness, imploring him to instruct her. Duet commands her to approach, disliking when people address him while standing, and Emma watches with seething fury, internally condemning Lind for daring to sit on her master. Duet teases if she can't bear to leave him, and Lind, with a practiced smile, affirms, declaring her love for him to be an adventurous thrill, insisting that a single second away causes her body to ache. She smugly thinks her performance will move him to tears and earn her a reward. Emma, however, sees through the charade, scoffing at Lind's clumsy tricks. Duet, seemingly captivated, calls her a good, honest girl and asks her desire. Emma is utterly shocked and enraged, watching as Duet, planning a special treatment for Lind, coaxes her for more faith points. Lin, draped against him, insists she wants nothing but to be by his side forever, yet her inner thoughts scream for rings, gems, skills, and even vampire hunting rifles. Dewitt, feeling her against his neck, finds the warmth addictive, wondering if his cold body has finally felt human warmth after 1,000 years, all while his inner voice notes her greedy desires, daring to covet him, his plaything, his fiancé. Their lips meet again in a complicated dance of desire and deception. Meanwhile, Emma descends into the castle's depths, her eyes glowing crimson with murderous rage, clutching a rolled cloth as she screams the name Lind and vows to kill her. In the dark, forgotten corridors, Emma, holding a flickering lantern, her resolve set, states she can no longer tolerate rejection from her master or the rise of that human. She pushes open a hidden door, recognizing it as the secret room from a forgotten letter, and begins an ancient invocation, calling upon the dormant calamity of Ogma's castle with her own blood. Her eyes burn with a demonic glow as she appeals for supreme power, surrounded by swirling, dark energy. A colossal, malevolent eye opens within the chamber, its blue-purple light illuminating Emma as she stands unflinching. A deep, resonant voice asks her ultimate desire if granted a choice, and Emma, her eyes ablaze, demands power to control all things and the beauty to bewitch Dewitt. The deal is sealed, energy surges through her, and suddenly an attendant appears, startled by the strange emanations. He calls out Emma, his voice laced with confusion. Emma turns, utterly transformed, her eyes glowing fiercely, a chilling new power emanating from her. The attendant recoils in terror, fangs bared, realizing she has awakened the calamity, his mind racing to report to the master. As he turns to flee, Emma, her voice now commandingly sinister, orders him to look at her. He cries out in terror as she unleashes a devastating attack, the force of it ripping through him. The powerful shadowy figure commands an unseen subordinate to erase a specific memory and then instigate a revolt among the lower-rank vampires. The imposing figure of a woman, radiating authority, oversees this dark manipulation. The commanded male vampire, his eyes glowing fiercely, confirms his compliance. Meanwhile, Emma, once a humble maid, dramatically transforms into a stunning, ethereal vampire, her pink hair flowing and blue butterflies fluttering around her, as she proclaims herself the most beautiful new member of the Blood Clan, now known as Aggie. Later, in a grand hall, Aggie finds herself in a precarious game with Dewitt, who instructs her on archery posture, his hands on her, as he explains that another miss means she'll lose her last piece of clothing. Dewitt's subtle smirk makes his predatory intentions clear, and Aggie burns with indignation, mentally accusing the old man of feigning innocence despite setting such humiliating rules. Her eyes glint with fierce resolve, vowing that she won't allow him to succeed in humiliating her. Dewitt, ever the manipulator, changes the stakes, proposing that if she misses this time, she won't lose clothes but will instead spend the night in his room, serving him. Aggie, stunned but determined, releases the arrow with a sharp swish. And to Dewitt's subtle pleasure, it finds its mark dead center. Dewitt, feigning disappointment, asks if she truly didn't want to join him in his room. Aggie, forcing a demure smile, expresses her eagerness to learn everything he teaches, claiming she couldn't bear to miss his afternoon lessons, a performance that visibly pleases Dewitt. Seated regally, Dewitt acknowledges her victory but reminds her that a bet is still a bet, then commands her to remove his clothing. Aggie, already in minimal attire, approaches him, secretly chafing at his composure, feeling as though she'd lost despite winning. As her hand reaches his waist, Dewitt slyly interjects, demanding a kiss from his master before she continues. Aggie internally protests, recalling their previous kisses that left her mouth sore. Dewitt, however, suggests a gentle kiss this time, his eyes holding a glint of challenge. Aggie thinks there's still one more kiss due for the day before succumbing to another passionate embrace, sitting on his lap. Breaking away, she declares it doesn't count, but Dewitt, with a charming smile, simply reiterates that none of the previous kisses counted, asserting that 3 kisses per day will commence now, starting with another deep kiss as she remains intimately draped across him. Escaping to the dressing room, Aggie breathes a sigh of relief, thankful she managed to avert losing her first time that day, recalling the close call where Dewitt had insisted a bet was a bet, almost leading to a more intimate outcome before she pushed him away. He had begrudgingly conceded with a fine. The flashback ends as Aggie reflects that the day wasn't a total loss, and she needs to devise new strategies to extract benefits from him. Meanwhile, in his own chambers, a shirtless Dewitt, still lingering in the aftermath, muses on finding new excuses to get Aggie to his bed. He desires to spoil her more, wanting her love, but secretly acknowledges that he narrowly avoided sleeping with his enemy today. Back in the dressing room, Aggie remains thoughtful, as other maids excitedly discuss their master, believing he has summoned them again and hoping to play his games. They express confidence that he wouldn't solely dote on that human. Aggie, overhearing, is surprised by his swift summoning of them after she left and ponders how to win Duet's favor. The maids continue to chatter about charming the master and making the always superior man humbly submit for their love. Aggie considers if using love to make him submit is truly her path. As the maids boast about their figures and beauty, determined to win the master's heart, Aggie makes her entrance. The maids gasp as Aggie, in her stunning purple gown and flowing hair, reveals her transformed self, instantly recognizing her superior beauty and figure even over that human they had been discussing. Humbled, they pledge their service. Then, with a creak and a flash of light, Emma, now fully transformed and radiating power, strides into the room. Her eyes gleam with fierce determination as she silently vows, "I will win you." Aggie watches, a complex expression on her face. She internally dismisses any jealousy, reminding herself that Duet is her enemy. Instead, she resolves to focus on how to gain advantages from him, her eyes hardening with an unwavering resolve. She plans to kill him and avenge her father. The chapter opens with the alluring new maid, Aggie, making her dramatic entrance, kneeling before her master to offer her service, her very posture radiating a seductive submissiveness. But her master, Duet, seated on his grand throne, cuts her off with a sharp query, demanding to know who permitted her entry. Aggie, despite her initial composure, falters, stammering in response, her face showing distress. Duet, eyes glowing with an ominous yellow, dismisses her and all the other maids with an irritated command to leave, proclaiming he needs none of them. His powerful rejection leaves Aggie shocked, yet beneath her initial distress, a cold fury begins to simmer, and she inwardly vows to make someone's life a living hell, her eyes blazing with determination. Meanwhile, Lind, elegant in her flowing dress, walks through the grand halls, unaware of the brewing drama until an unsettling growl echoes and a shadowy figure flashes past her. Suddenly, a grotesque vampire lunges, its fangs bared, catching Lind completely off guard. She manages a desperate dodge, her eyes wide with alarm, barely escaping its claws. The creature tumbles down the stairs, and Lind, confused, questions how a low-ranking, mindless vampire could even be on the upper floors. Her confusion turns to dread as more growls fill the air, and several monstrous vampires emerge from the dark, clawing their way towards her. Lind finds herself overwhelmed, desperately dodging their relentless attacks until one manages to sink its fangs into her arm. Injured and panicking, she realizes she must escape or face death. As another vampire lunges, Lind attempts to use the power of her rings, but they fail her. She watches in horror as her rings, which control these creatures, lose their glow, drained of energy. The vampires close in, grabbing her, and despair washes over Lind, convinced this is her end. Just as hope fades, a strong hand reaches out, pulling her to safety and flinging the attackers away. It's Duet, standing tall and protective, his presence a sudden, brilliant shield against the chaos. Lind looks at him, utterly stunned, asking if she's hurt, recalling his previous indifference and wondering why he, who seemed more interested in games, would save her. Duet, observing the now dull rings on her finger, remarks that her energy is depleted, then confronts her sharply, asking why she misused his gift to control the low-ranking blood clan, effectively questioning her recklessness and asking if she's eager to cause trouble. Lind, consumed by anger and feeling profoundly wronged, argues back, demanding to know why the ring, which she knows intimately, failed to protect her, accusing Duet of desiring her death and stating that she is the one who feels wronged. Her fierce accusation strikes Duet, who momentarily grips her by the neck, his eyes intense, only to release her, clearly stunned by her unexpected defiance. Observing Duet's wavering resolve, Aggie, the ambitious new maid, decides to intervene, recognizing that her master is showing too much leniency towards Lind. She steps forward, taking Duet's arm and asserting that Lind, as a mere human, couldn't have intentionally caused trouble, and requests forgiveness for her, hoping to portray Lind as weak and herself as indispensable. Lind, utterly bewildered by Aggie's presumptuousness and her familiar tone, sharply rejects her, declaring she doesn't know her and is solely focused on surviving the dangerous castle, not on romantic rivalries. Aggie, offended, vows to prove her worth, grabbing Lind's hand and threatening to expose the defective goods Duet has given her. But before Aggie can act, a sudden burst of energy erupts from Lind, throwing Aggie violently backward. Lind is left confused, wondering if the malfunctioning ring is suddenly working again or if someone else is controlling it. Duet then turns his anger back to Lind, demanding to know if she's done causing trouble, completely ignoring Aggie's cries of pain from where she landed. Lind, however, dismisses his accusation, her anger miraculously fading into a profound disappointment as she reflects on the unexpected hope she had placed in him. She gazes at Duet, realizing how deeply she had started to hope for something more from him, only to be met with his harshness, leaving her heart broken. Lind, with an expression of intense frustration, declared that if her actions were causing trouble, then nothing wasn't. Her anger had miraculously vanished when a certain someone spoke, leaving behind only profound disappointment despite the hope she once held for him. Two ornate rings, symbols of broken trust, lay discarded on the floor near Duet's polished shoes, as a low-level vampire named Aggie cried out to her master in pain. Lind, blindfolded and resolute, had earlier warned that if she wasn't trusted, she shouldn't be given rewards, lest she mistakenly believe they represented genuine affection. Her heart ached, convinced that his rewards were as cheap as his affection, a bitter realization that left her devastated. Dewitt, ever stoic, seemed to ignore her pain, while Aggie desperately pleaded with him, clinging to his arm. Observing the scene, Dewitt silently called for Loris, his expression unreadable. When Loris appeared, ready for orders, Dewitt commanded him to thoroughly investigate the recent incident. With a cold glint in his eye, Dewitt picked up one of the rings, ordering Loris to throw out the troublesome, low-level vampire and ensure he never saw her again. Aggie gasped in utter shock and despair, screaming in protest as she was forcefully dragged away, her fangs briefly exposed. Lind watched, feeling her very source of faith being irrevocably cut off, yet a steely resolve flickered within her. Meanwhile, Loris stood before Lind's door, announcing he was there under the master's orders to investigate the low-level vampire's loss of control and demanded she open up. The door creaked open, revealing Lind seated regally, a sharp dagger clutched in her hand, her gaze piercing through the sudden shaft of light. Loris was stunned, openly questioning if she intended to assassinate the master. Lind calmly returned his probe, asking if Dewitt had sent him to investigate her, which Loris confirmed, assuring her Dewitt only wanted the truth and wouldn't harm his master. Lind, unwavering, then challenged him, asking what he would do if the truth was revealed. A terrifying transformation overtook Loris as his eyes glowed with furious red energy and fangs descended. He raged internally about the foolish human attempting to assassinate their master, vowing to kill her himself, yet immediately curbed that impulse, knowing he couldn't personally do it without being nagged by his own principles. She needed to die by someone else's hand. Then, with a chilling smile, Lynn declared that if he intended to assassinate the master, she would fully support him. Loris, turning away, revealed his own twisted plan. He would let her provoke Dewitt. A cruel, fanged grin spreading across his face. Lind, initially surprised by his support, pressed him for details, acknowledging that ordinary assassinations wouldn't work on Dewitt and suggesting they plan together. As Loris appeared to engage in the conspiracy, Lind calmly reached for an apple, then, gripping her dagger, clarified that she never said she was going to kill Dewitt. Loris recoiled in shock, utterly flummoxed. Lind reflected that only a fool would charge an enemy with a knife without a second thought. What she truly desired was to see him kneeling before her, begging for release. She envisioned Dewitt, bound and broken, weeping and asking why she wouldn't even look at him. Lind yearned for him to beg her to grant him everything. Just one glance would be enough, yearning for him to beg for her love. She recalled the maid's prophetic words, that she would make the arrogant man humble himself to win her love, and that this was her ultimate goal. Biting into her apples, Lind decided that since she couldn't escape or win conventionally, she would try a different approach. Her ultimate desire, a dark, sweet revenge, was to see Dewitt fall deeply in love with his enemy's daughter, and then regret it profoundly. Loris, still reeling, asked if she truly wasn't going to kill the master. Lind, with a dangerously sweet smile, affirmed she wouldn't, playfully asking why she would harm a master who was so good to her. Loris, unconvinced, challenged her loyalty, asking how Dewitt's most trusted housekeeper could support harming her master. Lind, leaning in close, retorted that he shouldn't speak of love as she didn't believe it. A mere drop of blood's connection wasn't enough to justify such loyalty. A cold realization dawned on her: he was playing her. Loris's knowing smile confirmed it. Everything he had shown her was a calculated disguise. Lind, horrified, now saw him for who he was. A passive bystander who had never truly helped her, making her foolishly believe she had an ally in this hellhole. Loris, now showing deep anguish, confessed that from the very beginning she had been utterly alone. Lind stood isolated under a solitary spotlight, surrounded by shadowy vampiric figures, symbolizing her profound loneliness in this treacherous world. Loris's facade momentarily cracked, his red eyes burning with internal conflict as he vowed not to let her suspect his true intentions. Lind, however, had her own complex motives, coolly telling Loris that while the master had saved her life, she certainly didn't want to make things too easy for him. Loris mused on her niche sentiment, intrigued by her nuanced desires. A flashback assaulted Loris. A younger, tormented version of himself lay in the mud. A street urchin, reflecting that Dewitt saving him had prevented the ending he truly deserved: to rot, trampled, and forgotten. The moment Dewitt, perfect and radiant, extended a hand to pull him from the depths of despair, Loris was consumed by a blinding, resentful gratitude, declaring that Master Asterisk just had to save him Asterisk. He remembered enduring immense pain and torment, forced to accept his identity as a murderer, a waste of space who shouldn't be alive. That flawlessly perfect person saved him and just had to keep him by his side, using his own perfection to highlight Loris's darkness, making him feel like a bug in the sewer. A sinister smile played on Loris's lips as he thought how interesting it would be to pull such a perfect person down, to make him as lowly and broken as himself. Lind, however, continued her analysis, asserting that while Duet might appear perfect to others, to her, he was arrogant, domineering, cold, and heartless, adding that humans are inherently imperfect and selfish creatures, always pretending to be good. Loris, his expression darkening, vehemently disagreed, declaring that some people could indeed be near perfect, while others were as bad as mud, then sharply questioned Lind if that was why she worked so hard to maintain her perfect smile. The world, to the elegant Lind, is a paradox where humans claim perfection yet harbor flaws. Her companion, Murray, with fierce red eyes and visible fangs, challenges her, insisting some are near perfect while others are as base as mud, recoiling as he laments if his own imperfections make him unworthy of acceptance. Lind, her expression pained, produces a delicate cross-adorned ribbon, a poignant reminder to remain gentle and faithful, as Murray nearly snaps it in anguish. She probes, asking if removing it would truly make him worse, knowing he hasn't lost control or grown his fangs. Lind tenderly assures him that he is his true self, imperfections and all, and that true love, like a human's affection for a kitten, is always unconditional. Murray's heart, she notes, has skipped a beat, a sign of his vulnerability. Another vampire, the blue-eyed Edgar from behind Murray, praises Lind's kindness, but Murray, visibly annoyed, silences him. Murray assertively states he needs no reminding and will treat MS. Lind well, though Edgar then offers his own assistance should Lind require anything. Lind, calm amidst the tension, then asks Murray what Duet, their master, truly desires. Murray, serving tea, reveals the master's peculiar preferences, beauty and blood. Lind processes this, envisioning herself as a captivating beauty, realizing she must appeal to these two aspects, and inquires about the specific type of beauty and any past mistresses. Murray inwardly suspects a trick, wondering if Lind is trying to use him to gain the master's favor. Edgar, reminding Murray of their mission, sternly asserts that MS. Lind belongs to the master only in name, as Duet suspects her. True happiness between them is impossible, urging Murray to ensure Lind finds her own path. Murray, having given it careful thought, relays crucial intelligence to Lind. The master prefers cold, distant beauties and despises overly proactive ones. With a sly grin, Murray leans in, taking Lind's hand, explaining a kiss on the hand is the highest form of vampire sincerity, hoping she won't doubt him. Lind, accepting his gesture, pulls her hand away to reveal a distinct bite mark. Murray feigns apology, but Lind, ever the strategist, inwardly plots to use this mark to play hard to get with Duet, ensuring he takes the initiative. Murray, meanwhile, finds himself entranced by the sweet taste of her blood. Back in the castle, Duet sits regally as Edgar reports that MS. Lind is innocent of the recent vampire incident. Duet, surrounded by swirling shadows resembling bats, considers this, picking up a ring from his table. Edgar inquires if the master plans to apologize to Lind. Duet scoffs at the notion, demanding to know what Lind has been doing. Edgar reports she was simply peeling an apple, seemingly unconcerned, leaving Duet subtly intrigued. He commands Edgar to have Lind come and serve him tomorrow. The next day, Lind, radiant in a red gown, arrives with breakfast. Duet's eyes widen at her stunning appearance. He orders her closer, but Lind, playing her part, cites his own rule about distance during service. Duet, amused, declares a new rule. She will serve him every meal from now on, then commands her to feed him. Lind provocatively offers him an apple, asking if this crude manner is acceptable service, suggesting he find someone else if dissatisfied, and subtly turns, flaunting her back. Duet, frustrated yet captivated, swiftly pulls her into his lap. Lind, now nestled in his arms, calmly offers him a morsel. Duet tastes it, finds it good, and instructs her to continue. Lind, her emerald eyes meeting his, wears a triumphant, knowing smile. Trapped in a gilded cage of her own making, Lind, a woman of sharp intellect, finds herself observing Duet, the mysterious master of the castle. She watches as he meticulously reinforces the fortress with potent magic, wondering about the hidden enemy he so vigilantly defends against, an enemy so formidable that he, a master, cannot entrust the task to his guards. With a knowing glance, Duet dismisses her concerns, claiming the castle's magical barrier is too fragile for lesser hands before inviting her to his bed to rest. There, in the intimate glow of their chamber, Lind ponders if his deep slumber is a consequence of his magical exertions, as a week passes in this unsettling routine. Her observations reveal a man who divides his time between indulging in games with his maids, diligently fortifying the castle, and then succumbing to sleep each day. Deciding today is the day for her departure, Lind enacts a subtle plan. As she pours Duet's tea, she deliberately lets the delicate teacup slip, shattering loudly on the floor. The maid beside her immediately apologizes, her face a mask of fear, while inwardly she seethes with jealousy, convinced Lind is merely a conniving, jealous human interfering with their master's affections. Dewitt, his eyes narrowed, turns to Lind, demanding to know if she disapproves of his dalliances with the maids. Lind, determined not to reveal her true hand, maintains a composed facade, asserting that his freedom is his own and she would never interfere. A flicker of annoyance crosses Dewitt's face as he declares his mood ruined, before sweeping Lind dramatically into his arms, much to her internal chagrin. The other maids whisper, their faces twisted with disdain, judging Lind for her brazen attempts to seduce their master even in this precarious moment, scoffing at her audacity as a mere human. One maid, unable to contain her fury, unleashes a torrent of bitter words, prompting Dewitt to bare his fangs, his voice sharp with menace as he silences them. He reminds them that Lind is his fiancée, performing her duties and still their mistress, before ordering them to vacate his presence. As the maids flee, Dewitt's gaze falls back on Lind, demanding to know what she is willing to do for him. Lind, seizing her chance, offers to stay by his side, accompany him on castle tours, and serve him during his rest, recognizing his subtle attempt to probe her intentions. Dewitt, a smirk playing on his lips, accepts her offer, then dismisses her suggestion of immediate castle inspection, stating he'll do it after he wakes. The next morning, Dewitt awakens beside Lind, realizing her game has finally begun. With a sly grin, he reveals the truth. He has placed a tracker spell on her ring, anticipating her every move. Meanwhile, Lind descends into the castle's grim prison, seeking out Noel, a werewolf confined within its cold bars. Noel, filled with regret over a past failure, pledges his loyalty and asks what she needs. Lind then presses a small, ornate ring into his hand, instructing him to escape, assuring him she has a plan and he must simply await her signal. Unbeknownst to Lind, Luna, another maid, observes her clandestine meeting, her lips curled into a sinister smile as she, too, tracks Lind's movements with a magical scrying mirror. Back in his chambers, Dewitt watches Lind's tracker move towards the prison cell. A sudden alarm flashes across his mental map. A prisoner has escaped. He calls for Loris, demanding an explanation. Loris reports that the werewolf prisoner has indeed escaped due to lax security and a search party is already out. Dewitt's eyes darken with a dangerous glint, realizing Lind had lied to him, protecting the werewolf. He turns to Loris, a predatory smile spreading across his face, announcing they will go give his fiancée a surprise. Moments earlier, within the prison, Noel endures the cruel taunts of his fellow inmates, who mock him for his species, comparing werewolves to dogs and vowing to crush them. Noel clenches his fists, his thoughts consumed with saving Ms. Lind, even as his tormentors continue to sneer that Lind has already been charmed by the master, a common trait among women. Lind suddenly appears at the prison cells, startling the other prisoners who demand she leave, reminding her that Lord Dewitt forbids her presence. Noel is visibly surprised, quickly realizing the urgency of their situation with Lind as she tells him there is little time. He apologizes for his past failures, acknowledging Lind as the true hero. Lind, momentarily distracted, finds herself captivated by Noel's endearing earnestness, wanting to reach out and touch his expressive ears. Noel, regaining focus, triumphantly announces he has found the weakest point in the castle's formidable barrier, urging haste. Lind, with a newfound admiration for his cleverness, praises his intellect, confidently stating he won't fall into Dewitt's traps like the foolish guards, and insists they move immediately to exploit the weakness. Lind's emerald eyes flash with shock as a horrifying realization dawns on her. She is caught in the web of Dewitt's sinister plan. Her face contorts in terror as the full implication of his domestication theory washes over her. A dark shadow of Dewitt himself lurking in the periphery, surrounded by the ominous red roses he associated with her capture. Dewitt, ever the strategist, had orchestrated this entire escape, his glowing green magic a subtle tracking spell, all while his subordinate Loris noted the master's diminishing magic and intense possessiveness over Lind. Dewitt, a picture of refined cruelty in his ornate red coat, calmly explained to Loris his twisted philosophy. To tame a wild beast like Lind, one must first satisfy her desires and offer a deceptive sense of freedom. His smirk widened as he detailed the second phase. Recapture her, chaining her again to instill absolute understanding of who truly holds the reins, transforming her into a loyal pet who would never dream of escaping, even if her chains were eventually loosened. This elaborate surprise for his fiancée, Lind, was a meticulously crafted psychological prison. Suddenly, a loud thud shatters the chilling monologue as a furious figure. The rebel with intense blue eyes crashes through the door, axe in hand, tearing through the opulent castle decor in his desperate search. His face, bruised and etched with worry, demands to know Lind's whereabouts. Raging at Dewitt for possessing her ring and demanding her location, grabbing the master by his collar in a raw display of emotion. With a swift swoosh, the rebel lunges, declaring he would kill Dewitt and end the castle's absurdity this time. bringing his axe down with lethal intent. But before the blow could connect, Loris, with a cry of warning, heroically throws himself in the way, shielding his master from the lethal strike. Duet coolly observes the rebel's increased strength, to which the rebel defiantly replies he'd trained relentlessly to avoid repeating his past failures. Still, his sole focus remains Lind, demanding to know where she's hidden, explaining that she gave him her ring as they parted ways, embarking on a perilous journey, trusting him to protect myself. In his heart, he vows to buy the beautiful and kind Lind precious time, even if it means his own capture. Duet, dismissing his heartfelt plea as crap, warns him to prepare for death, striking swiftly as the rebel dodges, declaring that since words are useless, he would take matters into his own hands. The rebel, axe again in hand, attempts another strike with a forceful swoosh, but Duet, with an almost ethereal grace, evades his attacks, moving with bewildering speed. Duet then sharply questions why Loris is merely standing by, prompting the loyal subordinate to quickly respond, dedicating himself to his master's command. Loris then charges with a resounding swoosh, tackling the rebel to the ground, knocking him down. As Loris remarks on the rebel's improved strength, Duet, with chilling indifference, dismisses Loris as useless for now but promises future punishment, then commands him to join the search for Lind. As they depart, a small, intricate cross pendant, possibly belonging to the rebel, falls unnoticed to the floor. Meanwhile, another observer with a pained expression silently questions Duet's despicable methods of control over Lind, before acknowledging that they have learned. Throughout the expansive castle, guards are frantically searching, calling out to each other about checking the West Tower and the East Building's clock tower for the escaped werewolf and Ms. Lind. Seated upon his grand throne beneath a magnificent stained glass window, the Supreme Lord impatiently listens to a subordinate report their failure. The entire castle has been searched, yet no sign of the escaped werewolf or Ms. Lind. The Lord, with a frustrated sigh, demands they look again, utterly dismissing his subordinate's meek protest that it's almost dawn and they are only two enemies. Enraged by the subordinate's perceived lack of urgency, the Lord violently grabs him by the collar, roaring that if she isn't found, there's no need for him to wander with the energy given to him. The terrified subordinate quickly promises to search immediately, while the Lord dismisses his men, ordering them to search every corner of the castle, scorning their atrophied limbs and demanding they locate the fugitives. The Lord clutches a small, glowing red gem in his hand, his golden eyes burning with fierce determination. With a resounding slam, he bursts into a room, his commanding figure illuminated as he strides towards a grand staircase. Making his way through the pristine halls, finally he arrives, his gaze falling upon Lind. Lind, looking surprised yet demure in an elegant dress, holds a wine bottle and glass, meekly asking master. The Lord approaches, his golden eyes unwavering, softly calling her name. Lind, feigning innocence, apologizes for spilling wine, explaining she was thirsty and couldn't find an opener, adding that she had prepared a gift and waited for him in his room all day, wondering what kept him so busy. He gently takes the wine glass from her hand, commanding her to come here. Lind stares, wide-eyed, as he assures her, his voice low and intense, that he would never dare detain her. Someone questions the vampire king, Duet, about his sudden use of despicable, manipulative methods, reminding him of a time he was powerful yet principled enough to always seek consent. The attendant reveals the problem. A specific woman will never consent, prompting the chilling question of whether Duet has fallen in love. A glimpse of a tortured face flashes, and a decisive clank echoes as Duet's eyes blaze with intensity, shutting down further discussion and issuing a ruthless 3-day ultimatum for his desires to be met. He stands, revealing his true nature, not obsessed with playthings but utterly unable to tolerate losing control, vowing to take whatever means necessary to secure his prize. We are introduced to the magnificent vampire king, Duet, a millennium-old ruler of the undead, unmatched in power and wealth, who holds court in a grand hall. A human king, accompanied by his queen, bows deeply, greeting King Duet with reverence and a blessing for the god of undeath. Duet, with a subtle smirk and glimpse of fangs, dismisses the human king's worship, seeing all as mere ants whose thoughts are utterly irrelevant to a being as supreme as himself. The human king, eager to appease, offers his blushing queen to Duet, who casually accepts, musing that his desires always manifest effortlessly, though he finds such easy conquests predictably boring. Later, a pensive Duet clutches a vial, questioning why he'd resort to dirty tricks for a simple plaything, his mind recalling blurred images of other women who seem to be his captives. He scoffs at the notion of loving an ant, coldly declaring he cares nothing for the methods, even if his chosen plaything loses her very soul as long as she remains his. The scene shifts to a medical room where the elf-eared attendant Loris challenges Murray, another attendant, asking if he still insists on recognizing Do-it as his master after his pronouncements. Murray, distressed but firm, declares his unwavering loyalty, stating he must repay Do-it for saving his life. Do-it's chilling resolve resonates. Lind will always be his plaything. We see Do-it leaning over an unconscious Lind, kissing her tenderly, his narration revealing he's been staring at her all day, noting she's still not awake. When a servant reports they can't find MS, Lind, or the werewolf, Do-it with intense red eyes, abruptly commands an end to the search, instructing Loris to find him in the medical room, leaving the servant baffled by his unpredictable shift. Murray enters the medical room to find Do-it idly toying with objects, and Do-it reveals the castle's shocking secret. A time loop, resetting everything to his birthday 30 years prior, forcing repetitive banquets and games, a monotonous existence he found only mildly diverting. However, with Lynn's mysterious arrival, the loop ceased, and everyone's lives became fulfilling. Loris cruelly probes Murray, asking if he would still stand by Do-it if he harmed the beloved Lind, pushing Murray to deny any deeper affection for her, citing only gratitude for the master's fiancée. Loris relentlessly taunts Murray, accusing him of breaking down after becoming a cannibal, then calls him a coward and a weakling, fueling Murray's inner turmoil. Murray's despairing blue eyes contrast with his vampiric red ones as Loris directly concludes he likes Lind. Murray explodes in anguish, declaring neither of them deserves to like such a pure, holy woman, calling himself a filthy sewer bug, and insisting they must tell Lind about Do-it's despicable actions. As Murray resolves to confront Lind, Loris's cynical voice echoes, observing Murray's anxiety now that Do-it might truly fall, as night falls upon the castle. Under the cover of darkness, Loris suddenly appears before Lind, offering intriguing news about Do-it. Lind, cautious, listens as Loris reveals Do-it's preparations to leave a hickey, and Lind discovers a faint bite mark on her own neck, her eyes widening in horror. She recalls Do-it never touched other women in such a manner. Loris, with manipulative intent, claims Lind's scent has changed, carrying sinful lust, asserting she is too pure to belong to Do-it. Then in a chilling move, Loris leans in, asking Lind to pet him like before, offering more information in exchange. Lind, confused and wary, internally questions Loris's strange request and suspicious motives. A dreadful memory surfaces of Do-it's perverse pronouncement. If his fiancée enjoys it so much, he will bring more men and play with her right in front of her. Concluding Do-it is an extreme pervert, and Loris a perplexing man with two faces, Lind rejects his advances, declaring she cannot trust him and will not engage in any transaction that exchanges sincerity for mere information. The white-haired figure, known only as the werewolf, cried out in distress, feeling an intense surge of panic and regret as he pleaded with someone unseen not to leave. Cracks spread across the dark void as a part of him, an ill-feared form began to emerge, desperately trying to reach out to a vanishing presence. In this fractured reality, a different man with sharp features and piercing blue eyes addressed him as Mr. Werewolf, extending an unexpected offer of cooperation. The werewolf, still reeling, questioned the us and the very idea of cooperation, a mix of wariness and curiosity in his eyes. The other man, coolly composed, revealed their shared goal, to capture King Do-it. The man with blue eyes mused aloud, a calculated gleam in his gaze, that besides his own faction, the vampire's natural enemies were indeed werewolves, a perfectly strategic realization. Suddenly, the scene shifts, revealing a lavish room where a dark-haired master, his presence subtly menacing, watched as a blonde woman, Lind, painted an easel. He offered a false compliment that her painting was nicely painted, but Lind secretly scoffed, thinking the art was hideously rendered and wondering how he could genuinely praise it. Her mind drifted back to a younger version of herself, forced into countless art lessons by her mother after her father's death, all in a vain hope she would marry into wealth. A dream Lind bitterly noted was misplaced as her true talent lay in fighting, not art. Back in the present, the master's voice cut through her thoughts, questioning her distraction. Lind quickly denied being lost in thought, but he saw through her facade, a dangerous edge in his smile. He declared her lying merited a punishment, 2 extra hours with him tonight, pulling her close as if to seal her fate. He leaned in, their faces inches apart, accusing her of being too slow with her tasks, specifically demanding to know why Loris, the housekeeper, hadn't prepared a crucial poison by tonight as instructed, despite having given her 3 days. His grip firm, he internally confirmed that once the poison was ready, Lind would have no hope of ever escaping him again. He then demanded she confess her feelings, asking if she liked him. Lind, understanding his desire for sweet words, immediately complied. She murmured that she loved him so much, wishing a day were 48 hours long so she could gaze at him for twice as long. Yet the master felt a strange, throbbing emptiness where his heart should be, realizing her power of faith or genuine affection remained elusive. He knew her words were all lies, and the more she spoke them, the more something within him rapidly drained away, leaving him hollow. He noticed the intimate marks he had left on her neck, physical proof of their entanglement. Lind, despite her feigned devotion, also acknowledged these marks, finding a grim satisfaction in them as tangible proof she had once existed inside his body, a chilling thought that underscored her captivity. The illusion shatters once more, and the white-haired werewolf is seen sprawled on a crumbling surface, gazing up at a grand, Gothic ceiling, confused and disoriented. With a forceful thrust, he broke through the material, the sound of crumbling stone echoing around him. His elf-like ears and distressed expression confirmed his struggle to escape this confining space, cracking his way out of a prison that was both literal and metaphorical. The narrative then returns to the master and Lind, now in what appears to be a treasure vault. The master, with a hint of cruel magnanimity, informed Lind that her diligence earned her a reward, and everything within this opulent room was hers for the taking. Lind's eyes widened in genuine awe, her face flushing as she stared at the colossal pile of gold, jewels, and ancient artifacts, excitedly asking if it was all real. Her thoughts raced, listing the priceless treasures: Queen Illy's crown, Norman paintings, countless antiques, and mountains of gold and silver, dreaming of a life of leisure outside the castle walls. The master, observing her reaction, casually remarked there were 10 more rooms just like this one, amplifying her internal greed. Lind, however, quickly regained her composure, her outward smile masking her calculating mind as she pondered the master's true motives, knowing these riches were useless to her while she remained his prisoner. With practiced deception, she declared that his affection was the most precious gift, desiring nothing else, while secretly planning to grab a few things on her way out when she finally escaped. The master's golden eyes narrowed, his expression darkening with a chilling perception. He challenged her feigned indifference, asking if she truly desired nothing, or if she merely wished to avoid owing him, perhaps planning to flee without a backward glance. Lynn's breath hitched, a cold dread washing over her as she internally panicked, wondering how he could possibly read her thoughts. Before she could fully stammer denial, he cut her off, confirming he knew exactly what she was thinking. He grabbed her arm with an intense possessiveness, roaring that she should never even think about leaving him. Lind desperately cried out, "Master, no," as he refused to listen, the treasures around them becoming a chaotic shower of gold coins. She found herself half-dressed, amidst scattered jewels, pleading with him to stop. His eyes were wet with a pained intensity as he questioned if her rejection stemmed from a desire for nothing. He swiftly bound her wrists with a string of pearls, pulling her into a tight embrace. He declared he wouldn't allow her to want nothing, his grip firm, his face a mask of complex emotions. Lind gasped, begging him to go slower. Then, with stunning suddenness, he suggested they hold a wedding. Lind was utterly speechless, her mind racing with the realization that he was proposing, wondering if his sanity had finally shattered. She saw this unexpected development, however, as a potential opening, the next step in her elaborate plan to finally escape this gilded cage. For Dewitt, the world had once been a cruel place filled with the pain of losing his father young and being constantly picked on. But now, experiencing such kindness, he reflected that it had been a long time since he felt this way. With Lind by his side, he felt protected, doted on, and endlessly happy, a feeling she echoed in her own thoughts, believing she had truly fallen in love with Dewitt and given him all the power in their relationship, yet also confessing her love for her master. As Dewitt gently caressed her face, lost in the tender moment, Lind internally mused if this chain was strong enough to keep him, relishing the joy of being loved. Suddenly, the peaceful moment shattered as a servant burst in, urgently announcing that something had happened. Dewitt, visibly annoyed, questioned why he was being bothered at such a time, but the servant insisted it was urgent, revealing that someone had broken into the underground chamber. With a heavy sigh, Dewitt agreed to handle it, turning to Lind and instructing her to wait for his return before sealing his promise with a passionate kiss and departing into the night. As soon as he was gone, Lind, now fully dressed and composed, her expression shifting from doting lover to cunning strategist, wondered aloud if Dewitt would truly chase her once she released this chain of affection, then commanded whoever was hidden to come out. From behind the curtains, like us, a man with wolf ears emerged, greeting Ms. Lind. He immediately questioned how she had known he was there. Lind then asked if he was the one who had infiltrated the secret underground chamber, to which Lycus denied, but affirmed he knew who did. A worried expression crossed Lycus's face as he pointed to a spot on a map, indicating the chamber. He quickly told his companion, a figure with purple hair, to hide in Ms. Lind's room while he lured Dewitt away, just as he heard someone approaching and urged silence. Lind and Lycus quickly concealed themselves as Dewitt and his attendant passed by, the attendant speculating that the intruder must be someone brave or foolish to venture into the secret chamber, which was rumored to hold the calamity. The attendant recognized the purple-dressed figure heading towards the chamber as Emma. Meanwhile, a sinister red-eyed entity, the true master, gloated, recalling how it had sent a letter to Emma, instructing her that awakening the calamity with blood would grant immense power, wondering if she had truly succeeded, and realizing that the Emma the others referred to was actually Aggie. The entity mused about whether power could only be attained through the blood clan's blood or if its own could suffice, while in a separate, more benevolent thought, Lycus wondered if there was a way to free MS. Lind without harming Dewitt. Dewitt, in a furious burst of realization, questioned the identity of the woman. Lycus, hearing Dewitt's inquiry, declared he would check it out and told the purple-haired individual to head to Lind's room first. Moments later, Dewitt was seen carrying Lind, asking if she was Lind, while Lycus prepared to enter the situation from the outside, leaping out a window to secure an alternative entry. Lind, reflecting on the close call, thought how lucky she was to have distracted Dewitt with her crying act, realizing she had been discovered. Lycus, now safe, asked her if she was implying the intruder was a woman, and Lind confirmed, describing her with purple hair and a purple dress. Lind looked shocked as Lycus exclaimed it must be Aggie, a menacing, powerful figure with purple hair and glowing red eyes appearing in the background. Lind then questioned Lycus about the contents of the secret underground chamber. Lycus, creating a protective magical barrier, admitted he didn't know, explaining that a powerful force prevented him from getting close, and wondering if it was Dewitt's power. Lind pondered this, and Lycus confirmed the power was similar to Dewitt's, but not identical, feeling more like Dewitt's power was simply enveloping it, leading him to believe this was the true reason Dewitt kept reinforcing the castle. As Lind prepared herself, thinking that this secret chamber might be Dewitt's ultimate weakness, Lycus suggested they should gather some funds for their journey and take a closer look at the chamber before they left. Meanwhile, a furious Dewitt demanded to know where Lycus had gone, enraged that he had been allowed to escape. His attendant explained he couldn't disobey Dewitt's strict orders not to enter the area, leaving him no choice but to watch, so Dewitt curtly dismissed him. Dewitt then angrily demanded to know who the shadowy entity, his master, had lured here. The entity, mocking Dewitt, replied it had been so long since he last visited, and that such a cruel question was heartbreaking. Surrounded by countless red eyes, the entity explained it was suppressed by Dewitt's power and couldn't even leave the room, so it certainly couldn't have lured anyone. They must have come looking for it on their own, adding that after all, it was quite charming. Dewitt, his eyes narrowed, wondered if his previous act of resurrecting the entity had left him vulnerable enough for this entity to find an opening. The entity, still taunting him, provocatively suggested that perhaps Dewitt's little fiancée would actually prefer him, noting that while they shared a handsome face, its personality was far more likable. Dewitt angrily retorted that there was no way Lind could ever fall in love with the entity. The entity, with a sly grin, questioned this, suggesting that perhaps she was the one who came looking for him. Dewitt's rage reached a boiling point, his fist clenching tightly as he declared that if Lind ever betrayed him, he would kill her himself. Moments later, Dewitt unexpectedly found Lind, who gasped in surprise. He questioned who she was talking to, reminding her that he had told her to wait in the room. Lind, wide-eyed and terrified, simply whispered "Master," as Dewitt pulled her into a possessive embrace. Hidden from view, Lycus quickly covered Lind's mouth, his own face contorted in terror, preventing her from uttering a single word as Dewitt held her close, unaware of the treacherous plotting that had just unfolded. With the court empty, the false Lind, Emma, sighs in relief, believing her ruse has finally allowed her a moment of peace. But her keen-eyed companion, Noel, studies her intently, prompting her to defensively ask if he suspects she is a fake. Emma, disguised flawlessly as the true Lady Lind, internally confirms that her master Dewitt was completely fooled by the mysterious power that replicated every detail, even the scent of the real Lind. She realizes this is a golden opportunity to stall Dewitt, who will be none the wiser while the real Lind is gone, so Emma decisively declares they must move. Noel, confused, asks if they are abandoning their initial plan to investigate the secret chamber, but Emma dismisses his concern, coldly calculating that if the powerful entity residing underground is truly under Dewitt's control, then his situation is no better than hers. She scolds Noel, questioning his naivety, asking if he truly believes such an entity would help out of pure goodness, warning that contacting it without understanding the price could lead to greater peril, a fear Noel echoes, dreading an alliance between the entity and Dewitt. Emma, however, internally scoffs, deeming Noel a child who doesn't grasp the treacherous adult world. She knows Dewitt and the entity would never truly align. Despite her cynical thoughts, Emma plays the part of the compassionate Lady Lind perfectly, gently caressing Noel's face and assuring him that his courage and kindness are more precious than any ability, causing the usually dumbest kid of the wolf tribe to blush furiously, overwhelmed by such praise and a strange heat in her presence. Meanwhile, in another part of the castle, Dewitt, his eyes now glowing a feral yellow and fangs subtly visible, is questioned by the real Lind's maid. also affected by the mysterious replication. The maid, an unwitting pawn in Emma's scheme, asks if Dewitt still intends to marry her as he'd previously promised. And Dewitt, captivated by the illusion, reaffirms his belief. Inside, Emma, with a malicious grin, vows to rub her upcoming marriage to Dewitt in the real Lynn's face, proclaiming that it is asterisk she asterisk, Emma who will marry the master regardless of whose skin she wears. She sweetly demands Dewitt gather the entire blood clan and announce their marriage publicly, eager for everyone to witness her triumph. Dewitt, seemingly under her spell, agrees to humor her just this once, his gaze seemingly gentle. But Emma's inner turmoil rages. Consumed by envy, she seethes at the thought that the true Lind might have received such a loving gaze from Dewitt and vows, with chilling intensity, to kill her if she ever gets another chance. However, a dark revelation emerges. Emma's past attempt to deceive, where she acquired Lynn's face, cost her greatly, and a shadowy entity confirms she has exhausted her opportunities. In a desperate flashback, Emma, in her true form as a maid with glowing red eyes, furiously accuses the entity of lying, believing that Lynn's face was useless against Dewitt. The powerful, shadowy entity condescendingly explains that Emma failed because she didn't understand Dewitt, dismissing Emma's attempts to blame it for the deception. Emma, enraged, finally deduces that the entity knew her beauty was irrelevant, and that only the real Lind held true power over Dewitt, and her horror intensifies as the entity reveals Dewitt is actually going to marry Lind, the human. The monstrous entity cackles at the irony of Dewitt, the formidable master, falling for such games of passion, then commands Emma to conjure Lynn's image in her mind so it can see this human who captured Dewitt's heart. As Emma, with tears in her eyes, reluctantly complies, a vision of the radiant Lynn dressed as a bride appears. The entity asks her name, and Emma, filled with a desperate longing, whispers, "Lind," admitting her desire to become her, even if just to possess her appearance. But the entity reminds Emma that she has already made her choice once and offers her a single final deal: trade her life for its power. The flashback ends abruptly, returning to the present where the castle servants are gathered, buzzing with anticipation for an announcement. The head housekeeper confirms everyone is present, and Dewitt enters with Emma, still disguised as Lind, her new elegant dress catching the eye of a brown-haired servant who questions the change. Suddenly, the servant, holding a small white flower, looks horrified, realizing it must be something the real MS Lind left behind in the underground chamber, prompting a chilling question from Dewitt. "You've been to the underground chamber." Emma, her deception unraveling, stammered a terrified denial, but it's too late. Dewitt's eyes flash with cold fury, his expression morphing into one of utter betrayal. A monstrous, shadowy face with glowing red eyes fills the screen, symbolizing Dewitt's inner rage. As he realizes the real Lind had been searching for him, and with a burst of purple energy, he roars that Emma has betrayed him. Emma, collapsing in terror, frantically screams, demanding to know what he is doing and if he doesn't love her, but Dewitt's grip tightens around her throat, his eyes cold as he mockingly asks if he loves the imposter. Emma gasps for air, desperately declaring her love for him even as her life is choked away. Noel's sudden, possessive embrace startled Lind, his face uncomfortably close as he murmured his desire for her, prompting her to internally question his actions. Trapped by his surprising strength, she realized she couldn't simply push him away. Her mind raced, knowing a shout would only attract patrolling soldiers, leaving her with one desperate option. She lunged, striking him across the face with a resounding smack. Noel reeled back, bewildered by the unexpected blow, his cheek stinging. As he stammered, asking what was wrong, Lind retorted, demanding to know if he had intended to eat her, while a blushing Noel admitted it was a possibility, pondering if the castle's restored timeline had accelerated his heat cycle. But the confrontation took a darker turn as Lind noticed a gruesome injury on her hand, blood beginning to well up and drip crimson onto the polished floor. Unseen, a malevolent, shadowy figure watched, its glowing red eyes alight with triumph, remarking on the ease with which its enchantment had achieved its goal and how werewolves remained foolish after all these years. The entity then declared it had created an undetectable double for Lind, demanding herself as repayment for this sinister boon. Noel, regaining his composure, swiftly took Lind's injured hand, carefully bandaging the gash, and apologized profusely, admitting it was his fault. Lind, however, knew the truth. Werewolf claws inflicted wounds that were notoriously difficult to heal, making a trip to the medical room impossible without alerting others. Noel, with a determined glint in his eyes, declared he would have to be rude, and to Lind's shock, leaned in to lick her wound, explaining that only a werewolf's saliva possessed the healing properties necessary. The sensation was bizarre, a strange intimacy born of necessity, and Lind tried to rationalize it, convincing herself Noel was merely a naive child trying to help. Soon the wound was gone, leaving only a faint reddish mark on her skin. Looking into her eyes, Noel urgently proposed that he needed to return to the werewolf tribe and asked if she would accompany him. Lind hesitated and Noel, misunderstanding her silence, quickly apologized, asking if she had other plans. He then explained his precarious situation. Before the castle's time manipulation, he had been a rogue agent on the run due to a failed mission, and if he left now, he couldn't possibly return to human society. A flicker of an idea ignited within Lind as she recalled the ancient animosity between werewolves and vampires. With a firm resolve, she agreed to go with him, her mind already forming a strategy to exploit this alliance against the vampires. Noel, beaming with relief, then promised to lead her through a secret passage, explaining it was the weakest point in the castle's defenses. With a mighty smash, he broke through the wall, revealing the hidden route, and proudly declared he had dug it himself over 200 years, refusing to let his imprisonment be for nothing. As they navigated the labyrinthine passage, which snaked through the cellar, servants' quarters, spice room, dining hall, and kitchen, Lind asked their current location, to which Noel replied they should be near the main hall. Just as they prepared to emerge, a voice echoed through the hall, calling out Lind's name. Noel gasped, fearing Dewitt had found them. Indeed, in the main hall, a somber attendant informed Dewitt that Lind was already dead. Dewitt cradled Lind's lifeless double, roaring at the attendant to silence himself, his face a mask of fury and grief. Observing this grim spectacle from the shadows of the passage, Lind was utterly stunned, wondering if she was truly dead. Through a small opening in the passage from a corner of the main hall, they witnessed the unfolding drama as Dewitt, heartbroken, was warned that resurrecting a human body would deplete his own life force. Enraged, Dewitt screamed for everyone to get lost, clutching the lifeless form of Lind's double, his pain palpable. He swore he wouldn't let her die, begging her to wake up and not leave him. From her hidden vantage point, Lind watched his agony, a flicker of unsettling doubt stirring within her. Could he truly be sad about her death? Could he have actually loved her even after poisoning her and using her as a plaything? Noel, sensing her turmoil, asked why she looked so sad. But Lind quickly dismissed the idea of Dewitt's love as a complete joke. She confirmed her deep-seated hatred for him, the man who had murdered her father, and commanded Noel to move. As they escaped the castle, emerging into the fading light of sunset, Lind's determination hardened into a chilling vow. The next time she met Dewitt, it would be the day he died. They ran through the dense forest. But exhaustion began to set in. Her breath ragged, her legs faltering. Suddenly, a towering shadow fell over her. Dewitt had caught up. Lind's world spirals into a terrifying nightmare as a shadowy figure, embracing her from behind, whispers, "Got you," sending shivers down her spine. His grip tightens around her throat, stealing her breath as he violates her with a chilling intimacy. His hand boldly reaching under her dress. "What are you doing?" she gasps, her eyes wide with terror and disgust. A desperate cry caught in her constricted throat. His finger toys with her lips, a cruel reminder of her helplessness. Then another man appears, her tormentor's voice slithering with a sinister suggestion, asking if she'd tried being intimate with another man in front of Dewitt. As a finger silenced her protests, he leans in, a disturbing whisper near her ear. "What do you want him to join in to?" Her body's involuntary reaction, a blush of fear and shame, amuses him. He finds her truly interesting for reacting so strongly to a mere suggestion. Suddenly, the dream shifts, the man kisses her, and her mind races with the realization that even in a dream, she's trapped by this horrifying scenario. As Dewitt, his eyes blazing red with fury, materializes. "Die," he roars, his hand encircling her neck in a mirror image of the first tormentor, his anger a palpable threat. Lynn jolts awake, her eyes snapping open, heart pounding against her ribs. The lingering terror of the nightmare clawing at her. She finds herself in a cozy, rustic cabin, the warmth of a nearby fireplace a stark contrast to the icy dread that gripped her in sleep. Relief washes over her as she checks, confirming her clothes are miraculously intact. It was just a dream. Standing, she breathes a shaky sigh, grateful to have truly escaped the harrowing vision. Though the faint blush on her cheeks betrays the dream's vivid hold. Noel, a white-haired man with fox ears, notices her distress, gently asking if she had a nightmare, to which she quietly confirms. "Why am I always like this?" she wonders internally, perplexed by the recurring torment. Noel points out her flushed face, questioning if she's all right. Quickly, she fakes a smile, claiming she just sweated a lot and needed to change, though inside, she acknowledges how frighteningly real the dream felt. Noel, flustered, offers to leave, but Lind, ever practical and aware of their precarious situation, instructs him to simply turn around and not peek, reasoning that she couldn't afford to be alone if something unexpected were to happen in the cabin. As she begins to change, a peculiar scent reaches Noel, making him wonder if humans, like animals, also experienced a heat. Lind, meanwhile, recounts their frantic escape, how Noel had cleverly lured the patrolling soldiers away, leading them to this seemingly abandoned cabin in the forest to rest for the night. She asks Noel if Loris, her former ally, directed him to bring her to this specific location, given her instructions were to be led out of the Blood Clan's territory. Noel confirms, explaining that having been sequestered in the castle for 200 years, he was unfamiliar with the outside world and had relied on Loris to guide them through the Blood Clan's lands. A chilling realization dawns on Lind. Loris knew she faked her death. His motives suddenly seem shrouded in suspicion. Noel, confused by her sudden move, asks where she's going. Lind walks away, recalling how Loris had previously manipulated the castle maids against her, cementing her distrust in him. Her flowing hair mirrors her agitated state as she thinks. The deeper concern, she realizes, is that Loris now holds the secret of her fake death. He could easily turn against her, capture her, and deliver her to do it for his own gain. Witnessing her resolve, Noel declares he won't wait for Loris any longer and will go with her, reaching out to her shoulder. But Lind, ever the strategist, stops him, explaining that escaping the Blood Clan's territory without Loris would be too difficult. Instead, she reveals she has a meticulously crafted plan, one that will benefit everyone. Later that night, a hooded figure, either Lind or an accomplice, approaches the cabin under a starry sky. The cabin door stands mysteriously ajar. Loris, cloaked in a dark hood, arrives to find Noel unconscious on the ground outside, a gasp of surprise escaping him. He rushes to Noel, urging him to wake and demanding to know where Ms. Lind is. Noel, disoriented, can only stammer that Lind has been taken away. What? Loris roars, his eyes widening in alarm and anger, his face twisting with a fierce resolve. Unbeknownst to him, Lind, still hooded, watches from a distance, confident that Loris will rescue Noel, knowing she must stick close behind him. She then pulls out a grotesque mask, a mischievous smirk playing on her lips, ready for her next move. A single tear rolls down Lind's cheek, reflecting an inner turmoil or a painful memory. Elsewhere, Dewitt observes with an intense gaze. Lind collapses, a soft thud echoing in the chamber. As Dewitt sternly offers her a chance to explain, kneeling before him, Lind fervently declares her unwavering loyalty, swearing she would never harm or betray her master. Yet a deep fear is etched on her face. She stares upwards as vibrant blue energy pierces through her. Lind collapses, blood trickling from her eyes and mouth, whispering a final, heartbreaking "Master, I love you," as blue butterflies flutter around her fading form. Dewitt, his eyes wide with horror and anguish, holds her lifeless body, repeating her name in disbelief. He clutches her close, his face a mask of grief, screaming her name into the void. Inside a grand chamber, Lind lies still, a solemn scene framed by a stained glass window. Dewitt laments how things escalated, noting that her human vital signs indicated a sudden heart attack. A doctor confirms the cause of death as Dewitt tenderly holds Lind, vowing not to let her die, having already sent Loris to find a human doctor, then kisses her forehead. As he withdraws, Dewitt notices something missing from her hand, his eyes widening in realization. The ring, he wonders where it could have fallen. A determined expression solidifies on Dewitt's face as he confidently declares he placed a tracker in the ring and will find it soon. His gaze sharpens as he discovers the tracker's location, at the foot of the mountain. Meanwhile, two of Loris's cloaked servants stand outside a bustling bar in a town, confused as to why their master sent them away before deciding to sneak back, convinced he must be lonely without them. One of them dramatically wails about how much they miss their master. The intense golden gaze of a dark-haired man snaps open, a sudden exclamation of surprise escaping him as he realizes something vital. He wonders if his precious ring has fallen off somewhere, his brow furrowed in concentration as he clasps his hands, convinced he'll find it soon because it should still be within the confines of his magic. Yet a jolt of alarm shoots through him as his eyes widen, questioning why the ring's signature is now at the foot of the mountain. Meanwhile, in a bustling town under the night sky, a bar hums with life, where some of his dismissed followers lament being cast out, musing that their master must be lonely and perhaps they should sneak back. Inside the very same bar, a woman named Loris is caught red-handed, accused of stealing a ring she claims to have merely found. Her companions suggest she simply took something when she was dismissed by their master, hoping he's merely infatuated with a human woman and will soon let them return. Unbeknownst to them, observing from a shadowy corner is the blonde woman, hooded and disguised as a member of the Blood Clan with the help of an aura-masking charm from Noel. She notes it's her third day away from the castle, having successfully followed Loris and her accomplice after Noel's deception, tracking them as they traveled all night to this Blood Clan town, now resting in an inn opposite the bar. Just as she speculates they'll be moving soon, a chilling presence enters. Dewitt, her master, adorned in a rich, dark blue cloak bearing the Capet family crest, flanked by imposing guards. Her internal alarm blares as she wonders if Noel slipped up, praying Dewitt hasn't noticed her. Loris and another woman eagerly approach Dewitt, hoping he's there to take them back. But his piercing, red-glowing eyes and furious aura tell a different story. He coldly declares that one shouldn't take what doesn't belong to them, effortlessly removing the stolen ring from Loris's trembling finger. Loris, bleeding and desperate, frantically swears she found the ring by chance in a secret passage within the castle. The words secret passage spark a flicker of dangerous interest in Duet's eyes. Instantly, his guards seal off the exits, announcing that no one is to leave. Trapped, the blonde woman calculates her escape, realizing her only path out is the second-floor balcony. With a determined glint in her crimson eyes, as she leaps, performing a graceful aerial maneuver, landing perfectly in front of a stunning white-haired man, Clest, her mask falling to the ground. She stumbles into him, blushing from the unexpected contact, as Clest remarks with a cool detachment that throwing oneself at someone can be quite dangerous. Recognizing the man before her, she gasps, "Do it," then instantly draws a dagger, demanding to know who he is. She presses the blade to Clest's throat, but he remains unfazed, calmly stating he has no intention to harm her. A single drop of his crimson blood wells up where the dagger cut him, and he remarks matter-of-factly that his blood is red. The blonde woman, startled, asks if he's human, while Clest dryly responds that if she doesn't stop the bleeding, he'll soon be a dead one. Suddenly, a voice shouts, "Fall back," and she recognizes Duet's command to take her back. One of Duet's dismissed women timidly asks about their fate, but Duet turns away, ignoring them all. As Duet's men close in, Clest, still bleeding, leans heavily on her, whispering that he feels weak and needs to lean on her for a moment. He asks if this act proves he isn't who she suspects, and she internally muses that while he resembles Duet, his personality is strikingly different. She gently touches his wounded neck, attempting to stem the flow of blood. Clest then asks if Duet is pursuing her, to which she simply replies no. With an audacious move, he pulls her close by the waist, making her question his intentions. He playfully threatens that if she won't be honest, he'll simply find out for himself, leaving her to wonder if he's genuinely menacing. Their eyes lock in a silent battle of wills, and he points out that she was the aggressor, implying he sees her as the dangerous one. She declares her intention to leave, apologizing for the trouble. But Clest stops her, warning that her blood-stained cloak will cause a commotion in this Blood Clan territory. Glancing down, she sees the evidence of his wound on her hand, her thoughts already racing to check on Noel and Loris. She assesses Clest, deeming him weak and merely human, no threat at all. Clest then politely requests to use her washroom, and she agrees. Inside the washroom, her dark cloak hangs to dry, and she decides to take a much-needed bath, reflecting on the days since she last properly washed. As she soaks in the water, the cumulative exhaustion of 3 sleepless days washes over her, pulling her into a drowsy haze. Her eyes gently closing as sleep finally claims her. Trapped in the intoxicating afterglow of a vivid dream, Carol, flushed and teary-eyed, felt the echoes of intimacy linger as a disembodied voice asked if it felt good, a man's soft voice calling her Dewey. Startled and blushing, she fully opened her eyes, hearing the commanding declaration that she should take a good look at who he truly was, his face close to hers, surrounded by ethereal butterflies as he covered her mouth in the dream's climax. Breathless, Carol found herself submerged in the cool bathwater, only to emerge moments later in a flustered panic, questioning why she was consistently dreaming of that man. As the elegant Duet, her supposed traveling companion, inquired if she had brought a change of clothes and offered his own, Carol internally reassured herself she'd at least had the foresight to lock the door. Deciding to buy something downstairs, her embarrassment gave way to a simmering annoyance, firmly blaming the lecher Duet for her recent string of erotic dreams. Downstairs, Duet, now holding a bag of bread, casually offered her some food, as he and another man discussed a recent werewolf sighting, wondering if the creature had already left. Carol, now properly dressed, listened to their conversation, her mind racing with the possibility that the werewolf could be Noel. A cold dread settled as she realized Noel might have left while she was bathing, and in a surge of desperation, she rushed up the stairs to confront the innkeepers. She demanded to know how long ago the guests in her room had checked out, only to be met with the innkeeper's confirmation that they had departed shortly after the bar incident across the street. A frustrated expletive escaped her lips, she had lost them. As Duet questioned her sudden dash upstairs, Carol internally wrestled with her predicament, wondering if she had no choice but to rely on him. Mustering a composed facade, she explained she was merely startled and expressed her strong desire to return home soon, finally introducing herself as Carol to the enigmatic man. He responded, introducing himself as Clest, listening patiently as Carol fabricated a tale of running away from home to escape a forced marriage, fearing her family's fortune was coveted. She pleaded for them to travel together, assuring him her father would treat him well, if only he'd help her get home. Clest, with a charming smile, agreed to set off at sunrise, a decision that brought Carol immense internal relief as she celebrated her escape from the Blood Clan's territory, now free to contact Noel. As they prepared for their journey, Carol inquired if they would be traveling by horse, to which Clest confirmed they would, explaining the considerable distance to human towns and the mountain they'd have to cross. With a confident grin, he asked if they should set off, Carol's face betraying a hint of apprehension. The journey began, but not without a hitch. Clest soon noticed Carol was no longer on her horse, asking if she had fallen off. Sitting ungracefully on the ground, she sheepishly admitted the horse had gone too fast, confessing to herself that she'd probably be at it right now if she hadn't jumped. Clest, with surprising gentleness, sat beside her, chiding her for not mentioning she couldn't ride a horse, suggesting they could have ridden together. Carol offered a small, knowing laugh. His demeanor shifting to concern, Clest then worried she might have a fracture, gravely stating that if not treated soon, it could lead to a permanent disability, leaving them no choice but to return to Blood Clan Town. Carol reluctantly agreed they could only go back. With a dazzling smile, Clest instructed her to hold on tight, offering to carry her, and she, with no other option, accepted his assistance. As he effortlessly scooped her into his arms, Carol remembered her forgotten suitcase. Clest's eye glowed with a predatory glint as he assured her he'd buy beautiful new dresses, declaring she only had him now and should be a good girl. Carol meekly agreed, and the scene shifted to a bustling human town. Meanwhile, in this vibrant town, two figures, one a patron and the other an artist, finalized a portrait, with the patron noting it already bore a 70% likeness based on his description. The artist profusely thanked his lord for the payment. The jovial scene quickly darkened as a violent struggle ensued, a forceful rip echoing as a man was brutally seized by his collar. A red-eyed, darker personality declared it was his turn to control the body, while the blue-eyed original screamed in internal horror that he would destroy a missing person poster for MS Lind. The dominant personality scoffed, asking if the weaker one truly believed they could find MS Lind this way. He disparaged the previous search efforts, pointing out that as a werewolf, the other individual's keen sense of smell should have picked up a scent after the kidnapping, proving he was lying. The hooded figure, the one being interrogated, hesitantly offered that the kidnapper probably showered, leaving little scent, or perhaps used some method to hide their tracks. The red-eyed master, suspicious, questioned if the hooded figure was genuinely searching for someone or merely dawdling. The hooded man then excused himself to the washroom, while the red-eyed figure turned his attention to the portrait, asking if it was done. He then stated he needed to take care of something else first, as his master had sent him to find and bring back a human doctor. The blue-eyed inner voice wondered if that vampire still hadn't given up on finding the fake Lind, while the red-eyed one decided they would stay there for a bit, spotting a clinic and resolving to check it out. With a shrewd gaze, he pondered if someone important had been kidnapped, while the blue-eyed inner presence speculated whether the person knew MS Lind's whereabouts or if she simply wished to remain hidden.